All right, I waited long enough. This is State of Exile, episode 26. I waited for all you YouTubers out there. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. So,
We're not cutting off the intro today, yes.
yeah,
Hopefully.
and my mic isn't too quiet. Okay, so what are we talking about today? We're going to be doing a little bit of Act 4 hype up on this show. We don't have any special guests. Perhaps next episode we will have some special guests. We've taken about a good 1 month break, but we're back full-fledged. The Act 4 is coming right around the corner. Expect more podcasts. We're all taking a little bit of a break from the game or working on other things. However, this is going to be our first Act 4 hype episode. Until it comes out, we'll be doing a lot of these. And when Act 4 comes out, expect more podcasts.
Yeah, that's it. We're gonna start getting here's my expected what's gonna happen. Here's what I reckon. This is the theory. So we're going for this 1 month league very soon, like a week now, and then I think maybe a couple days into the 1 month league, they're gonna start doing announcements, and then throughout the 1 month league, they're gonna get all the announcements. Once per week, once every couple days, leading up to it. The hype is gonna be real. It's gonna come down for 2 days. It's gonna be a quiet before the storm, and then Act 4 will drop, and our minds will explode. I think that's what's gonna happen. Confirm spoilers.
I don't think people realize, like, all right, so the last time this game actually received a major content update,
Forsaken
we had
Masters.
Forsaken Masters, which really added new ways to play the game, but it was still the same game, honestly. We had SOTV, Sacrifice of the Vow, which added corrupted side zones in its Siri, as well as the Vow Temple, which is somewhat of a content update, but I mean, like, act content update. The last thing we saw was back in Nemesis and Domination when we had the addition of Dominus, the library, Imperial Gardens, things like that. We haven't had a real, like, brand new content update for a long time. Something entirely new that you haven't seen before. So we're going to have a whole new set of tile maps, which means probably new maps in general, as well as new content throughout Act 4. Merciless Dominus will actually have to be killed. As well as tons of new mob types I'm expecting, as well as a whole new town. Maybe we don't know what's to be expected. New quest rewards. I mean, this is a major, major content update. And there,
I mean,
go ahead.
we haven't. I think we haven't had anything this big in a long time. I think because even Act 3 was Act 3 Part 1, and then there was Act 3 X released afterwards. Like, I feel like the closest thing we've had was that long ago when Act 3 was first dropped. So, this is, I'm very excited for this. This will be like one of the biggest game changers we've had in a very long time, especially because what we've heard from GGG so far is that they're not afraid to go back and change some pretty cool things. Apparently, like, they're going to be doing some big shifts to sort of like the core elements of the game. So,
Like, obviously, by time, generally speaking, when you kill Piety in Merciless, that's usually when you're done playing the storyline of the game. No one really does Merciless Dom unless they're MFing or just for the sake of doing him. So usually Merciless Piety is like, this is it. Maybe you'll do your library quests after a little bit. You're around level 65, 66. You'll farm that area for a little bit, you go into maps. Now, with the introduction of Act 4, and probably having to clear that through Merciless, leveling is going to change entirely. You know, will the game feel longer? Is it going to take longer to level? These are things we all need to find out on our own. How is the leveling arc going to be changed?
Yep.
Because it's not going to be the same. I can promise you that.
Rescaled mobs and stuff.
Yep.
yeah. I mean, the game felt like a completely new game when just Act 3 X was added. Like, that changed things heaps. I remember we, like, because we had so much game knowledge and so many ways set in stone of the way we played the game back then, and I feel like we're in the same point now where we have a pretty developed meta. It's a pretty diverse meta now, which is much better than what it was back when Act 3 X was added. The meta was very stale and very narrow back then. But I mean, things changed completely, and I remember even like watching Crip's stream when Act 3 X was first launched, and him just saying like it's a completely new game.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know anything now. It's like I know nothing about this. I was like, yeah, that was a pretty cool moment. That's one that's sort of stuck in my mind. So I'm expecting and hoping for some of that.
You
For
think
this
about
new
Act 3 in general, like those shield charge mobs, the archers, lightning thorns. What cool mechanic are we going to run into that's going to kill us automatically because we weren't prepared for it?
Yeah, well, every new content patch they've added, they've made more complex and interesting monsters. I mean, some of them, like Scepter of God, are not people's favorites, so we'll see if they continue that trend. Whereas we know that GGG are very happy with the mobs from Scepter of God, so maybe we'll see some more difficult, painful mobs like that.
I
But
remember.
yeah,
I was gonna say, I remember the first time fighting Dominus, when like there was no guides out because it was like day one, and I was killing him and everything was all cool, and then he had a second form, and the whole screen went dark. Oh my goodness, I was so scared for my character's life.
The first time I was fighting the Peacocks in Scepter of God, suppresses fire. I was like, if I shoot my freezing pulse towards them, does it go slower? Like, I didn't know what it did. It just lowers your cast speed and attack speed. It's an annoying debuff you can't get rid of. You know? Ugh. Can't stand that. But Act 4, the hype is going to be there. It's a completely new game to everybody, and I think this... we have, because, let's be honest, Forsaken Masters was one of the biggest releases they've had, and it really didn't add any new maps or mob types to the game. Act 4 is going to be crazy. The amount of people coming over the Path of Exile, plus the marketing they're probably going to be pumping out the next month or two, is going to be just so awesome. I think this is the golden age of PoE. For
that's
sure.
one of my favorite things as well, is seeing so many new people trying out the game. I always love seeing people's first experiences with the game, and having them sort of like join something that I have been with for so long now is exciting. And having people come back and get into it, it's like, I tried it before and I only played it a little bit, but this time I played it and now I'm addicted. I like seeing that sort of thing. So that's one of my favorite parts about new content. And this will be like the biggest sort of new player influx, I think, out of any of them. I'm expecting.
Oh, yeah.
We saw some pretty big marketing for Forsaken Masters, but I'm expecting that GGG will be doing even more over the coming month than what they did for that with the whole new act. Like, with the amount of investment they have to put into design that much new content, whereas the other expansions were a bit of new content, but mostly like repackaged old content. A lot of the stuff was like, make a boss out of an exit, like make a Goatman boss that has some new skills and stuff.
Yep.
So,
He's
yeah.
red. Woo! So let's talk about this 1 month race coming up here. I'm going to start off with getting on my salt shaker here, and I would like to say I'm fairly disappointed. I was expecting something more. I understand the need for a 1 month league. If you guys are wondering why it's a 1 month league or 1 month race rather than the 1 week race or 2 week race we've had in the past, GGG is a firm believer of the measure twice, cut once. And I'm okay. If they need more time, they need more time. I think we'd all prefer a smooth launch rather than an allies regenerate life regenerates life release. I'm talking to
Oh,
you
man.
beyond. But I will say that the 1 month race, the reason why I'm disappointed in it is we just played Bloodlines for the past 3.5 months and Torment the past 3.5 months. Putting them together, if you've played both leagues already, it's kind of disheartening, and we'd actually prefer something more challenging. There's been a couple threads on the forums and Reddit alike talking about how people want to be challenged over this next month to push themselves, and now's the time to do that. I personally...
I mean, the people
Go ahead.
playing before Act 4 is released are the people that are kind of nuts anyway. Like, to put themselves through so much Path of Exile, when there's new content coming up or just around the corner and not taking a break, the people who are not taking a break in the lead up to it, they probably want something a bit crazy. I mean, I think there's going to be some interesting stuff that happens out of Torment plus Bloodlines, but I'll allow you to continue because I'm on board with this particular soapbox here, Zeno. So keep going, man.
The past 5 episodes we've been hinting, and GGG please, Rito please. Yeah. We want the idea of a hardcore league that's truly hardcore. Take your past hardcore leagues and throw them all together in one pot and let's do it. 100% active Nemesis, Invasion, Beyond, you get the gist. Onslaught. That would be pretty interesting. Well, maybe not Onslaught. Onslaught's kind of meh. Maybe Anarchy thrown in there.
I don't think they need to be just the hardcore leagues. I want to get Exiles everywhere. I want to get Anarchy in there.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Something just like, here it is, you think you're good at this game, let's see how far you could get in a 1 month league with just pure utter chaos. I think that would be amazing. Just everything including the kitchen sink league, pretty much. I'm ready for
So
it.
hold on, let's go through this. Let's go through this. Make sure this is clearly laid out. Anarchy, an exile in every zone, basically.
Yeah, that would
Invasion,
be
a boss in every zone, pretty much. Bloodlines, all the blue packs have crazy shit going on. Nemesis, all the rares have crazy shit going on.
Ambush, lock
Beyond.
boxes, beyond,
As you kill those packs, more crazy shit spawns. That's
and then tormented spirits. Good luck with that exile.
dense game. Yes, the Tormented Spirits as well. I want a super dense Path of Exile, because Path of Exile is getting more and more dense as we go. Now, I hope you know what I'm talking about with density. Is like density of cool shit happening. There's more and more. Like you spend more time in the zone because there's more cool shit in it. But this league would be the ultimate, the densest of the dense Path of Exile.
Yep.
I'll play the shit out of that.
A legitimate challenge league. Good luck farming your ledge with just pure utter chaos going on. You know,
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Do you remember Zeno and Ziggy when Beyond first got released? The way we were farming ledge.
Well, yeah. As soon as a mob popped up, we ran.
That was great. I don't know. I'm gonna play the opposite right here now. So I think if they were to like mash everything together, it should be for like maybe 2 weeks or something rather than a whole month. But I think
Yeah,
they should. I think they should. That should be like a big thing. Like we're gonna have a downtime for an extended period of time, which could be right now, for example, like you're saying, this is what we're gonna be doing. But me actually, I look forward to playing the double leagues, the standard ones. Well, the standard plus the hardcore, because since I don't play, I usually play hardcore and I don't necessarily play the non-hardcore versions. It's nice for me to get a feel of how it was like in a hardcore environment. So I like it for that reason. I don't necessarily. But then again, I'm also the guy who agrees with there's some down, like you take a break from it and come back. I can't play PoE for 24/7, 7 days a year every second, Kappa. But yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of complaints to the tune of, but then you won't make it past level 40, but then you'll spend ages in one zone. It's like, but it's not going to be the same as the game we play now. I mean,
So?
yes, it'll be awesome. It'll be something different, something completely new. I mean, Chris has always said that he wants that league where we don't make it past the mud flats. I want to, maybe, I don't
not
mind
blamped.
saying that.
A 1 month blamped would be the QQ Fest would be real, but I think
Yeah,
like
that would be awesome.
a challenge where you can do it, but you have to be aware constantly would be really, really fun. Like Bloodlines, it's gotten to the point where I play Bloodlines, I pretty much, unless I see like something really scary, like I kind of ignore it, like Union Assaults, whatever. Pulse Blood, whatever. It'd be pretty interesting if it was just more than a Tormented Spirit once every never plus Bloodline mobs. I would really like to see just pure chaos. I think everyone would be very happy about that. A 1 month to really just push yourself. And like you said, Ziggy, the only people really going to be playing this 1 month league are the people who are crazy about PoE anyways, or new to the game still.
That are going to be playing this 1 month?
Yes.
I wouldn't say that. I would say remember a couple podcasts ago how we were talking about whether or not dead time in PoE is a good thing or a bad thing.
Yep.
That's like I took an extended break from the game and I'm going to be playing it, but I'm not new to PoE, for example.
But you've also taken an extended break already. Most people have not. They've played Bloodlines past 1 month.
Right. Well, that's just because my dead time for PoE is a different time than most people. Some people just like playing the game for a little bit, and then the race is over, the thrill is over, they stop, new league comes out, you go again. You stop, new league comes out, you go again. So
That's true. In case you guys didn't know what we're talking about, the 1 month league will be both a hardcore and a standard variant of Torment and Bloodlines hybrid league, as of right now at least. And the 1 month will have separate prizes depending on which league you play. And I'm not sure if you could get either or, but they did say that each league will have its own separate prizes. Once you usually have they done in the past where achieve this level, you'll be thrown into a raffle and then given some sort of MTX or some sort of donated prize from some company. That's what they've done in the past. Hopefully we see something like that again, because those are actually really fun. And I like how this time they said separate prizes, so maybe we're eligible for both. An incentive to play both the standard and hardcore variation.
I think they did say you're eligible to play for both if you want to.
Oh, you can. Okay, cool.
So I think they go ahead with what they've got planned for the 1 month. I like, as Fox said, I like seeing how the leagues interact together. I think it's interesting, and it's not it's interesting, but it's not too interesting that you don't feel like you can't still use that time to take a break if you want to. The fact that they're doing a 1 month, I guess means that people will probably just end up playing for like a week or two and then take a break if they wanted to before Act 4 comes out. Which I suppose it doesn't really make much difference if it's that versus 1 week or whatever. So that's fine. This idea that we have though for like a crazy chaos league, I think I would like to see them do that as a 1 week or a 2 week thing sometime in the future. I don't know, maybe like a couple months after Act 4 comes out. And then do it as like a charity event or something like that. I think that'd be an awesome, freaking awesome charity event. Have some sick prizes for people that actually make it to endgame in the league.
Agreed.
Yep, that would work.
Something to talk about too is Pulp back in the 2 week race they did. I think it was still in the middle of the leagues when the 2 week race came out. I believe it was during Invasion and Ambush. Yeah, it was in the middle of the leagues. They did some sort of 2 week charity race, and during that, Teddy NL or Pulp, he hit level 98. And that was on the very last day. Do you think we can have a level 100 in this 1 month race? I mean, that'd be pretty exciting. And I'm talking about in a hardcore environment, if someone actually put forth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
You have the time
Depends on whether
allotted.
those guys are feeling up for it or not. The
Correct.
guys who do that.
You have the time allotted, assuming you have the efficiency to do it.
That'd
It's whether
be
or not you
crazy.
have the determination and skill to go through with it.
Well, they've nerfed Detonate Dead and Flame Blast. What will it be?
Cap and trap.
Cap
I
Trap?
think you could still flame blast your way to 100 in this league, even with the nerf.
Yeah, pretty much. So, Act 4, they didn't give an exact date when it's coming out, but it's safe to assume they're using this 1 month as their final prep. And I'm hoping they usually take like a good week in between or a couple days. I would love to see it maybe a week right after the 1 month. That would be amazing for us. You know, we're ready. Let's do this. Hopefully no more fluff in between because I think it's time. Like the community is just itching themselves to play Act 4. It's like that. You got any more of that Act 4? Itching away at their neck.
We are hardcore addicts as part of Exile players. Sure, we go away for a week of rehab every now and then, but the itch eventually gets too strong and we relapse back into Path of Exile. I feel it, man. I keep feeling it. So from a marketing perspective of like the Act 4, the timeline to Act 4, I think as I was saying before, I think during the 1 month, they're going to use that entire time to get their marketing campaign in full force. You know, going up and up and up until the climax that is the release of Act 4. Lewd. And then the idea, I think, is of having a 1 month instead of just like a 1 week race and then just having some like downtime where it's just the regular leagues, is that as they're building hype, people like, you know, I can't wait for Act 4, I'm going to go play the game now because that trailer I just watched is too freaking sick. So by having the 1 month combined, even if like the excitement part is still only the first week, people are still able to jump in and try out something that's a little bit cooler than just the core game with the Tormented Spirits and the Bloodline stuff happening. So they can jump in and participate in that while they're waiting for Act 4 to come out.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. I expect a couple days after the 1 month ends, we'll see Act 4 release. I think we have a pretty solid time frame.
He didn't say he hopes. He says expects. You hear that, guys? Over at GGG, he says expects.
I expect. Don't disappoint me.
Expecting from a free-to-play game.
I'm
I know.
entitled to Act 4 a couple days after the 1 month ends.
I love it.
All right, so let's talk about these Warcries coming out. So they have disclosed some things about Act 4, and Warcries has been one of them. You have like this shout that when you kill a monster, it detonates was one of the ones they showed, and it deals chaos damage as a percentage. We're going to see some cool new interesting builds like that. But Warcries, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they all share a cooldown with each other. And during Cry was made a Warcry, they have... what else? They had another one. I don't remember what the other one they said what they were going to do with it, but they had another one that does like a detonate dead type chaos damage gimmick, so you can't prolife with it, essentially. And it should be interesting, and you don't take reflect damage either. What do you think? Well, first I want to say, do you think the Immortal Cry nerf has been talked about a while, Mr. Ziggy? Hell, you even made a moat pretty much around it. Do you think Immortal Call will be considered a Warcry?
Immortal Call will be considered a war crime?
Yep.
I don't think so, because then you're talking in the territory of how do we replace this thing that's being removed? How do we get an equivalency going? And GGD specifically said that they're okay in this case with there not being an equivalency. So they're planning on just removing the castle damage taken Enduring Cry Immortal Call combo and then not replacing with anything equivalent. So I don't expect we'll see Immortal Call changed significantly or made into a Warcry at least.
All right. And what do you think about Warcries. Is this kind of the path down the D2? Hopefully, no uniques like Call of the Arms, where you got your guy going, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," just spamming a bunch of freaking Warcries. Hopefully, you just get they stick to the one Warcry at a time cooldown thing, because stacking them I think would be pretty crazy. But I do like a whole new idea, a whole new tag. We haven't seen a new tag from PoE in a while. You got your AoE tag, your projectile. We haven't had a new tag like Warcry in a very long time. I'm pretty interested to see what they could come out with. Will there be more defensive ones, a health one? Will there be a buff type one that gives you 10% extra damage of some sort,
So I've spent a fair bit of time looking at and thinking about these war cries. I think the core thing to take away from what they're doing with the war cries, not even looking at the skills, is that they're going back to a fundamental core, looking at the basics in terms of rebalancing melee. So I think this is a really positive thing. This is definitely aimed at melee. Like, ranged characters will be able to use this, but the core design is definitely, these are aimed at melee characters. And I think sort of giving them more tools and changing the way these tools function is a really good approach to making melee look better. So even not even looking at what the skills, what they're teasing that they'll do at the moment, it's a sign of a good thing, I think, for the future for melee characters.
Something else is we've gotten 3 counterattack type gems. You think we'll see more of those in the future too?
What? How other ways could you counterattack unless they had like
Dodge,
extra
evade,
defensive bonuses to them or something?
Dodge, evade, damage threshold.
The attack side of things. What is the attack? I get the counterpart.
Oh, okay.
What's triggering it? They could definitely add some things to that, but how?
Maybe a counterattack that reduces the overall damage by 20%. Like some sort of like defensive counterattack. You have like riposte from some games that would disarm a person. A counterattack.
Yeah, I can see that. I think by definition, counterattack is an aggressive thing. It's like taking someone's attack and then attacking in the opportunity presented by you defending that attack. Yep. But yeah, maybe having that's what we thought would happen originally. I remember when counterattack came out, there was that this would have some more defensive applications. Turned out it didn't really have many defensive applications, but maybe we will see some more ones with defensive applications.
Right.
That could be good. I do sort of on a similar topic before we go into it. I do think we'll get phase run back. With Act 4.
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to bring up. I was going to say I'm pretty sure phase run is going to be coming back because it was crazy used in beta, and it's been so long since. I took the words right out of my mouth. I want it back.
I hope it's balanced this go around. I can see it now. If it's phase run before, it's going to be those prolif builds.
That's
phase run, and everything dies.
They're going to be bringing it in with a whole bunch of other changes aimed at melee, so I think there's a good chance they can do something interesting with it. I honestly don't really know what. Something I thought about was maybe making phase run more of a buff that you activate for your character rather than, I know it's a buff in the old design, we know, but something more like after 1 to 2 seconds of not killing an enemy or attacking an enemy, phase run automatically triggers on your character, and you'll go invisible, get that increase and move speed and stuff like that. I don't know, something like almost like a constantly activated thing on your character, but only triggers under certain circumstances.
Yeah, rather than 100% uptime.
You cast each time.
A Quicksilver flask permanently, basically, was what it was before. Something else is they mentioned in the Q&A that they don't have any plans to release the 2 heralds they mentioned back on episode 15 with Rory. But I would like to see those 2 extra heralds come out. I think heralds were one of the best additions to this game. We didn't see any herald love in 1.3. It was just back and Beyond and Rampage. They were being released. It would be nice to see some more heralds come out as well.
Or Anarchy and
Stone is what he hinted at.
Herald of Stone and Herald of Anarchy. Yeah, yeah. So they pretty much said they definitely won't be coming for Act 4, or for the release.
For the release, yeah.
Yeah,
it'd be pretty interesting if they do release those at some point during which the next leagues. I'm pretty pumped about those heralds. I think heralds completely changed the way we play the game. It changed the way how elemental builds. Their auras got nerfed, but heralds got released, so it kind of helped out. It brought them back to where they needed to be, and they don't scale off of aura effectiveness, things like that. It was a pretty good change for the game. Yeah.
So I'd like to take a look at what they've teased for each of the war cries, because I had some thoughts, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on these as well.
Okay.
So the first one is Inspiring Cry. Well, we already know an Enduring Cry. That's gonna function pretty much similar to what it does now. Inspiring Cry taunts enemies, so they all taunt enemies. Increases attack your damage and gives you flat mana regeneration like Clarity of you and nearby allies. So it increases the damage of you and nearby allies and increases the flat mana regeneration of you and nearby allies. And like Enduring Cry, the effect is increased for each nearby enemy. So if you do it next to a larger pack, you get more mana regeneration and more damage bonus.
I think that's actually a really good design because that alone, giving flat mana regen, can pretty much allow you to remove a blood magic gem for a melee, because the biggest problem you have as a melee and what forces you to run blood magic isn't that you don't have enough damage, because you can easily cap your leech. It's that you don't have enough maximum mana to be able to leech enough mana per second to be able to sustain it. But giving flat mana regen bypasses the percentage of regen that you would normally have. So I think it's a really good thing to do. Essentially, being able to run a Warcry, and being able to rotate that with Enduring Cry, assuming they're on a global cooldown, since endurance charges are up for so long anyway. And being as you are melee, it could give you a reason if you wanted to pick up duration on Enduring Cry, since no one ever really uses it. So I like it. It brings in a little
endurance
bit of
charge duration. Yeah, for sure. That'll allow you to have longer time between your rotations, so you can use the damage buff more. Yeah, I agree. How do you feel about Zeno?
I think Mana Leech has been in the back seat for a while, like Pohx said, ever since they made changes back the invasion patch, when they changed leech mechanics in general. Mana Leech kind of got hurt by a lot. Because it's capped at 12.5% of your mana, and if you're a melee character, you'd be lucky to have 400, 450 mana by the end. You will not, with how easy it is to get attack speed, you'll never ever be able to sustain off of Mana Leech alone on like a Glacial Hammer build, for example. It'd be nice to actually be able to have flat mana regeneration to pair with Mana Leech, so that maybe now you're not stuck using the Blood Magic Gem. I think that's one of the best points there, Pohx. Well said.
So here's my thoughts on Inspiring Cry. I love the damage side of things. It's awesome. It allows you to be a little bit more support. It encourages it works better on a melee character because you're going to be closer to the mobs. It encourages you to get up in amongst as many enemies as you can when you cast that, but still be sort of near your allies. I think it's going to be a very interesting thing for playstyle. It's going to be awesome skill added to the game. Here's how I feel about the flat mana regeneration, though. I feel like this is such a dumb thing. I mean, on one side, you can maybe remove your blood magic and build around this mana regeneration, and you have to make sure you have it very consistently up. But it's erratic because, maybe you build it so like, alright, as long as I use it near at least 5 mobs, I'm going to have enough mana regeneration to use my skill. But then, I have to get in and I have to cast that first. I have to make sure I have mana before I get into that fight. Otherwise, there's going to be some problems. I'm not going to be able to cast this, not going to be able to get my mana regeneration. So, it's the sort of thing that maybe you can build around for your individual character. Now, from the support side of things, whereas the damage applies to your allies, and that's really interesting and good, the flat mana regeneration for your allies, when does that ever make a difference? Never! Who does that ever affect? That does nothing in Path... unless they change something wildly about mana in Path of Exile. Everyone builds so they have enough mana to cast their skill, consistently without ever running out, and that's it. Any extra mana literally does nothing.
It does.
You're playing like a mind over matter character. Maybe it'll do a little bit of something, but otherwise, it does nothing. So
I agree, Ziggy.
Why does that even apply to other people? Because it makes no difference.
I mean, 50% of it is half of it's already amazing. It already gives damage. So...
The damage is really good. The mana regen's kind of who gives
it's a good skill just because of the damage. The mana regeneration, I'm just like, why?
I think it really depends on how much flat mana regeneration it ends up giving. To see. Yeah. I don't know. But like I said, the whole purpose of why I said I kind of like it is because even if it gives you 15 mana regen per second, that's enough for a melee, depending on your skill gem, to not need a blood magic gem. Which they can fix that problem without having to, or if they choose to, without having to use a Warcry for it. But I'm just saying, as a short time thing, I could see it being really nice as a melee.
Agreed.
It depends on what the base mana that you get from casting it near one mob, I think, is. If that's enough to support skills, then that's something you can build around. Or maybe if there's just a couple of mobs around, then that's something you can potentially build around. If you need to get 10 mobs near to get enough mana to support a skill with that, then I don't really see it being useful. So that just comes down to a numerical balance thing, I think. But yeah, I think it's interesting from a solo's perspective, the flat mana. Just that party thing just makes me lol because it's so pointless.
You know, for a while now, we always discuss what's the meta, and usually meta refers to what's the highest clear speed skill. Really, this adds more build diversity, and that's something Path of Exile actually has a lot of. It may not be the fastest clear speed, it may not be the best skill out at the moment, but it's something that is completely viable, which you could stretch that word quite a bit, but you could probably do these builds with maps, and if not, they'll tune it. And I think these were going to add to a lot of builds out there, make some skills that may not be up to snuff a little bit more viable, as well as some of your damaging Warcries. I'm pretty excited to see the new builds that come out, and I'm sure we'll see a new build of the week with a couple Warcries added in there. Nothing
I think most melee characters are going to run, 1 to 2 Warcries. Yep. I think Inspiring Cry is going to be featured in every party, like a damage. It just says increases the damage. If it's just like percentage increased damage that applies to everything, then every party will run that, even if they're not melee, but especially melee is going to run that. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very common thing. So I hope the sound effect of that particular Warcry sounds awesome because we're going to be hearing it a lot.
You got to have that cool thing bounce around you on the ground. I need that in my life.
So here's the other one that I think is Abyssal Cry.
That's the chaos damage one.
Yeah, this one's like, it's kind of cute. But I'm like, okay, let me do my thing for this. So what Abyssal Cry does is it's the same thing. It taunts enemies. It has some extra effects that scale based on the number of mobs around you. The first is reduced movement speed of enemies around you. So it's minus 26% reduced movement speed by default at level 20, and then 0.9% reduced movement speed per nearby enemy. So, there's like 10 enemies, they may be getting like 50%, minus 50% move speed on mobs.
It's the chaos damage explosion, man. We need more chaos skills, tinfoil hat.
Let's just look at this first part first. Move minus. Okay, so maybe in PvP minus 26% movement speed is going to be pretty nice, right? If you can use this in PvP, I can see that being pretty good. But for enemy mobs, so you're taunting them to come towards you, but you're slowing them down so they don't get to you as quickly. I don't know. If the taunt's really strong, then maybe it's doing something because the mobs are all like slowly marching towards you and your allies can pick them off. But...
So the thing with Taunt Ziggy in this game is it just resets their aggro.
It could be changing, though. I do believe they said they wanted to make it so Enduring Cry is actually a taunt and not a aggro reset.
Yeah, it's just an aggro reset currently. But they could change it.
Yeah, that's why I'm laughing at, wow, the mechanic of the skill makes the mob... I'm just saying, assuming taunt is being changed, it actually taunts. Taunting meaning, you flick the mob off, come and attack me. But hold on, get slow. Stay slower. Don't come yet. Don't come yet. Just come a little slower.
I see nothing wrong with this. Sure. Okay, so you want the mob to be hitting you, right? So you're taunting it, but the mob isn't hitting you immediately. So isn't that defensive if they still have to take their time to get to you?
I don't think.
The interaction with the taunt, I think, is an okay mechanic.
And then the move speed reduction could be pretty good. You're playing a leap slam character. Oh no, you just spawn Host. He's gonna whoop your butt, or whoever's gonna chase you down. Maybe Nahum, well, he's got Leap Slam. I don't know. A way to kite enemies more effectively as a melee.
It's a way to kite them, but at the same time, it's taunting them at the same time. So it's just, I don't know. It just seems a little interesting.
Maybe they don't always have to be used together. Maybe they are meant to be used separately. Who knows?
I was just curious, because then you got to remember, like, if you're trying to slow a mob when you're taunting it, and if it's like a life or death situation to slow the mob, I think it'd be better to just Leap Slam out rather than taunt and then use Leap Slam. So it's like,
you're right. You're right.
Because then one goes off cast speed, one goes off attack speed, so it's just, I don't know. But and then other people would say, like, because I was thinking of a scenario of like, you're gonna slow Palace Dominus, so he'll never get in range to touch of God you. But how is the taunt gonna work now if the taunt is getting changed?
This is the slow taunt also does a chaos damage when they die, correct, Ziggy? Is this...
Yeah, okay, so the second part of Abyssal
Cry
is Explosion deals chaos damage equal to 6% of the monster's maximum life. Obviously, chaos damage can't be reflected, but of the same token, not really many ways of scaling.
Okay, here you go. You're playing a Poison Trapper. You throw in your traps, you then use this taunt. They die from the chaos, they do a chaos explosion, and they're slowed so they're not leaving the Poison Trap. There you go.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a good scenario.
I'll give
I'm
you
just
that.
speaking
Yeah.
in general. I'm not saying it's a bad mechanic. I'm just saying in general it's an odd mechanic. That's all.
Mm.
Because remember, GGG doesn't want things to be specifically niche to just one thing. They want more than one use of it. And I'm just saying the idea of forcing something to come towards you and slowing it at the same time is just odd. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, this is definitely a nicer skill for ranged characters, which is weird in the context of Warcries
taunting.
being aimed at melee characters.
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely. I think the chaos damage is like just a cute little extra thing to have. I mean, it's just going to be slightly faster clear speed and packs. So there's not many ways you can scale it. You can't ignite off it or anything. I don't think you can like build your character around that damage. It's just going to be like a nice little added thing. I mean, I feel like people are going to use Enduring Cry and the other Cry
Right, right.
most
But
of the
there,
time, and that this will
in
only
this game,
occasionally make a
I'm okay with a
appearance.
war cry that's used as a situational. You know, you're not always there's always going to be the best. You know, the superlative. What is the best for this? You know, you'll always have your scenario, your preference, and it's okay to have a skill that's a war cry that may not be as good as every other one, but there's those situations where it is.
It's cool to see more chaos spells though.
Yeah.
We want more chaos spells, and it's nice to get one that does some chaos damage in another interesting way. I think it's an interesting idea. I think the idea of taunt plus a slowed move speed is kind of trolly, and I think it's kind of cute. I just feel like doesn't have much impact in the majority of gameplay scenarios. But yeah, it's a cute little extra thing. I mean, definitely not as attractive as the last Warcry though.
Agreed, agreed. So let's see. I think this pretty much sums up the worst cries. The next, let's see, we have about an hour and 20 minutes less in this episode. The next thing we're going to be talking about is what do we hope to see from Act 4. And I think we could spend more than an hour on this alone. I want to kick off the good old Cloak of Defiance on this one. I've had this idea now. I've just mentioned it on my stream. The problem with Cloak of Defiance is what they nerfed to it really didn't change too much. The reason people use Cloak of Defiance is the fact it offers you a keystone that you don't have to spend 15 to 20 points to go and get. Unless you're getting Val Pact, you're nowhere near Mind Over Matter. Even if you get Val Pact, you're still about 12 points away, 10 points away from Mind Over Matter. The idea I think that I've been shooting around on stream in the community is perhaps removing Mind Over Matter entirely on Cloak of Defiance and making it a 10 to maybe 17% range or 10 to 18% extra damage taken as mana. Move the Mind Over Matter keystone kind of like where Valpak is, but on the right side in that Scion area, kind of where the mana potion wheel is, and reducing Mind Over Matter to about 20 or 25% damage taken gained as mana, so that it's easy to pick up, but it's not 30% anymore. As well as if you want to get a high amount, you have to use Cloak of Defiance with it. So you're still sacrificing points to get Mind Over Matter. Then you could wear Cloak, but if you choose not to wear Cloak, you still have Mind Over Matter. A decent one. What are your thoughts on this, Ziggy?
It's clear you've given this a lot of thought.
Oh, I have.
But it's just such a weird and kind of off the cuff idea. The first time hearing it, I'm like, I don't really have any thoughts. I need to think about it more.
I feel like moving a keystone because of a chess piece is not always the right way to go
It's
about
not
it.
because of the chess piece. It's because the chess piece is used over the keystone because the keystone's in a poor position.
Right, but that kind of has to go with the chess piece. So to make the keystone look better, you have to move it so the chess piece isn't used as much. So
It's the chess piece is used a lot because the keystone's in a bad spot, not
Right.
vice versa.
No, I
I think the
understand what you
keystone
mean.
is definitely in a weird spot. Like even like in context of the theme of the tree, it makes no sense where it is.
I just feel that
Sorry.
you can just put you can leave the keystone to a separate matter, and then just rather than just specifically nerfing Mind Over Matter on the chess piece, you can just you can bump the rarity up another tier, or you could just put an actual downside on the chess piece. Because there's not really I guess it doesn't have life, it doesn't have resist, but it gives you Mind Over Matter, and I mean it's unique. It doesn't always have to have resists.
And it gives you pretty good mana as well on top of that.
All right, so here's my take on Cloak of Defiance. Now, people are saying it'd be too OP. Now, if you actually tally up what I just said, it's about 40%, which is what Cloak of Defiance was on release, and people weren't picking up Mind Over Matter. But now you are picking up Mind Over Matter, and you're using Cloak, so you're actually spending more skill points. So is it really too OP? It's actually taking away from both states of the game currently. I think it would actually be fairly balanced. But hey, You guys may be right.
Well, really fast, just to tackle onto that about it being balanced, it totally depends on the build because there's so many different builds that might actually utilize it, and then say Mind Over Matter is 2 or 3 points away in their build now, and now they just got an innate 10% mitigation boost almost. So,
But they're also spending an additional 10 points still because they still have to pick up Mind Over Matter. They're still investing into something.
didn't you say you wanted to move it closer to Volpac though?
No, not all right. All right. You go down left to Valpak, go down to the right to get Mind Over Matter. Maybe a kind of I don't know where to say it is, around where those the mana pot nodes are, kind of near Profane Chemistry area.
Okay, all right, then yeah.
You're saving yourself maybe 8 points that you would normally spend, but you still have to invest into it. What caster tree still wants to go down there?
I mean, Freeze Pulse Acrobatics. You can run Acrobatics and Mind Over Matter. You get the crit by going down to the Ranger side.
All right.
I don't know. I think it needs a lot of thought into it before it just gets a nerf.
Well, Cloak is OP. Cloak
Yeah,
is
I
god tier OP.
I
How are you
will-
going to fix Cloak other than removing Mind Over Matter on it?
You can just put a downside to it.
That's true. Add a downside to it.
Yeah, adding another downside would be fun. I don't know. I like the idea of moving the keystone though.
Yeah,
I
think it
about
needs to
somewhere
be
like near Scion, like in the middle somewhere.
the sign definitely needs a
more
buff.
things. Still kind of makes some things. Gives it nice little sort of buff to Scion. Easier access to Mind Over Matter seems kind of like something the Scion could do. I feel like I could get behind that. I think I could see that. That was a weird thing to start with for the Act 4.
Well,
predictions.
it was like on my mind. It's been on my
Yeah.
mind. I mean, it's Act 4.
say.
I don't want to say, oh, maybe there'll be a gem that does this. No, I don't want to speculate on things. That, I'm not going to play that. I want to talk about things that need to be changed for the positive or the negative. Like in your mind, like Shock Nova forever. We've needed a Shock Nova change for God knows how long. I'm pretty sure you could say Shock Nova and chat's like, yeah, we need a new one. I don't know.
I'm of the mind that Shock Nova doesn't need to be changed.
All right. Well, this has been the State of Exile podcast 26. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
I mean, I like what DGG said. There's some people that like the way Shock Nova works, and they use it for their little crazy niche builds. It gives me a Shock Nova tier when people want me to make tier lists of skills. Helps with defining tier 4 is Shock Nova tier. I mean, I'm okay with some skills just not really having any solid applications, and I would rather them add a new lightning skill than rework Shock Nova.
I'm gonna make a Shock
It's
Nova.
not gonna make me popular.
I'm gonna make a build utilizing Shock Nova as one of the skills. I actually was thinking about it earlier, and I think I can make it work.
All right.
But anyway.
What is this, gang up on Zeno Day? Shock Nova's balanced. I'm
No,
gonna
I'm
make
not
a bill.
saying that. I'm just saying I just feel that it can be used in some builds. Not that it is the point of the build, but just that it is part of the build.
We've
It
seen some
contributes.
cute uses recently. I saw I think it was a custom melee kill Shock Nova Cyclone character that looked pretty solid. And I mean, usually it's just like they're good characters and they just threw Shock Nova on. But I mean, I don't know. I got a bit of a fun. It's grown on me over time. Shock Nova. I don't know. Yeah.
I quit. All right, what
I'm
would
sorry,
you
guys.
guys like to see?
I'm-
I thought
I'm really sorry.
bringing up Shock Nova would be neutral ground here. Yeah, we need to buff it. Yeah. Nope.
No, controversial topic.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. What would you like to see Ziggy change for the better or worse in Act 4?
Okay,
Something in the
so-
current state of the game.
Well, let's talk about what we expect to see out of Act 4, I guess, in a more general sense. Like, the biggest stuff that's going to be added is, like, a whole new act and location and stuff. So we're going to be getting, a newly themed area. I expect we're not going to see an area that's, like, super similar to the ones we've been in. We're going to get, like, a new storyline and a location, and a new locations. I mean, this means new tile sets, this means new maps. I think all that stuff's pretty interesting and exciting. The Dominus story arc, so the first 3 acts represent one story arc, and Dominus was the end of that. We killed the guy that exiled us to Rayclast, and now we're kind of like free to go wherever we want, do whatever we want. So I feel like we're we can see almost anything out of this. Like, I don't really see any strong things pulling us in any particular direction. People have said going back and visiting Oriath. Maybe we go back and get even more Uber revenge against more people there. Maybe we go back there. I don't know. Maybe we head up into some mountains or something like that. I don't know. What do you guys think in terms of like setting and stuff? What would you like to see?
So this is like kind of on topic and kind of off topic, but it is something I would like to see, which I don't think I will see. It's just what I would like to see. I would like to see kind of like you know how we have like Firestorm? I kind of want to see like an Ice Storm, but
Kind of like what Rima and Mervale have.
yes. I don't know what it is, kind of dating all the way back from being a little kid. You use like Hailstorm, and it's like, oh my God, it's so cool. So I'd like to see something kind of like that. I think we did see a Chaos Storm on one of the mobs uses it. Or was I dreaming? I thought there was like a purple Firestorm from some mob type from Torah or something.
That doesn't ring any bells.
Maybe I had a dream about it. I thought I remember it. But yeah, something like Blizzard or I don't know. It just seems cool. I really like the utility of ice. That's why ice is always a great utility spell.
Right, that is very off topic.
I would
But,
like Act 4 to kind of look like I don't know, like the mountain waters coming down, and then it's got like a waypoint near some boats, and then like some sort of like Roman style arena area, and then like maybe 2 cathedrals. I don't know. I think Act 4 town would kind of look cool like that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
When you said like the mountain and the waterfalls and the boats and stuff, you kind of reminded me of like the LV sort of places in Lord of the Rings.
Well,
I mean, up in the mountains and stuff like that, some cool little places in there I think would be cool.
I just
said
trolled
that
you
I'd like to
guys.
see snow.
That's exactly what it's going to look like. I have the concept art for it, and I was showing it as I was saying it, and you guys couldn't see it.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah,
There's
the
a
concept
delay.
art comes with the picture
I
of
missed
Act
it.
4 town.
Zeno. So I missed that. I missed that concept art. But I guess that is some clues of what we might see then. And I know there's been some stuff data mined. Personally, guys, I've been avoiding like the spoilerish data mine stuff myself because I want to kind of want to go through GGG's hype ride that they're going to send us on.
Oh yeah,
without being spoiled.
that's the only thing from Act 4. It was actually Beck's. I asked what it was, and Beck's GGG from support said it was what Act 4 town's supposed to look like. That was the hint. The concept art says the past, present, and future. Some arts from that, and that was the future.
Okay. All right. All right then. So, what do you think about the places we explore then? If given that your idea of that being Act 4 town.
I don't know. It's like the first thing I saw when I saw this was the summit. Like I thought of like D2, the ancients on top of the mountain. I don't expect anything like that. This is most definitely not Act 3. This is definitely Act 4. There is no mountain in Act 3. But I was told this is Act 4 for all of you guys tuning
spoiled
in.
me, Zeno.
I didn't spoil no one. This has been out since since Beyond.
I mean, do you think that could be Aria? Could we be going back to the mainland? There's no rules that say we can't.
I hate to tell you guys, it's definitely not a spoiler.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. Anyway, I've said in the past what sort of things I want to see. I'd like to see some snow. I wouldn't mind seeing some mountain and stuff, or maybe some. I mean, it sounds like based on that town spoilers, that might not be what we're seeing. We might be going to some more less destroyed cities, which I feel like the city sort of escape we've seen a fair bit of in Act 3, but I suppose it could be a very different cityscape. Or that could just be one part, and the rest of it could be no cities around it. I don't know. It can be just about anywhere.
I guess I could chime in a little bit here. It's kind of off topic again, but it does have to do with terrain and stuff. So this is also a personal preference of me, but I love playing games that have some type of day to night cycle because it changes the theme of what you're doing. So like running outside and then seeing, I don't know, how, like either maybe it's from one end of the map to the other, it gets brighter to darker, or just playing on the theme of the game if you're in an outdoor setting where, you know, maybe like the I don't know, the light starts to dim and crickets, you start hearing like different noises and ambient sounds, and
We don't have any nighttime really in Path of Exile,
Hmm.
do we? I mean, when you're in Fell Shrine, it's kind of dark, but I don't think it's really nighttime. I think it's just the location.
Yep. That's probably my. I don't know what it is about it.
Hmm.
If there's a day to night cycle in a game, I am sold. I don't know what it is. I
Mm.
just fall in love with it. I have no clue why.
I do
Yeah,
like
I'd
day and
love to
night
see
as
him.
well.
Oh, for sure. That'd be awesome.
I kind of sometimes I forget to do a Lyra or I'll killer or helper, and when you go back to Western Forest, when the zone's all corrupt and Nectune is dark, it like
Yeah.
completely changes the way how it looks, and I love
Mhm.
it.
Yep, because you go back to the town like you said, and even then it's all dark still. It's cool.
And the positive thing about a day-night cycle is that it wouldn't kill the frame rate like other weather effects would.
Oh, like.
So the other thing we'll be getting with Act 4, guys, is new bosses.
Oh yeah, new
And
mob
I have-
types and everything.
Yeah, I have to say, GGG have really upped their game every subsequent boss they put out. So I was playing before Val was added back in closed beta. I think that was beta. I don't think that was alpha. Might have technically been alpha. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, when Val was first added, like that was the first time they did like a really mechanical fight. Like all the fights before that, Mavail and Brutus were basically just, they just kind of did attacks at you and you did attacks back at them. Like they revamped those fights to be more mechanical over time, but when they first implemented them, they weren't. But then Val was really, really mechanical, and then they added Piety, which had some interesting mechanics to it too. And then Dominus was like, holy crap, this boss design is through the roof, going crazy. And then they added Adziri, which is like a super mechanical, interesting fight. So I'm expecting the next boss we see is going to have some really interesting mechanics to it. I think they've really been sort of practicing their craft there with boss design, and I expect it to be much more like action set piecey as well, a bit more epic kind of craziness. What do you guys think we could see from a boss fight? What would you like to see?
A boss fight mechanic. Well, let's see. Most of the bosses have some sort of like gimmick one shot currently, and I actually kind of like those. It's fun when you're like, I'm gonna go stand and eat Val Smash. I do like those. The touch of God.
Yeah.
I think they're awesome because the only time they're really scary is in a desync environment, and if half their team is working on it, hey, maybe we won't have that anymore. But I think the one-shot gimmicks are pretty fun too, just to see if you can eat them or whatnot, or if you do get hit by it, you have no one to blame but yourself. And then
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
yeah, Val Slam. Like, unless you like desync or something like that, it's like if you eat a Val Slam, it's like your fault. I like the mechanics like that as well.
What do you have about you, Pox?
I'm trying to think of a really cool mechanic.
How about no Chaos Whippers that are in Museum? Because those guys suck. I hate that boss. I hate that boss. The phase 2 of the Dominus fight out of the 4 phases, the Chaos Whipper, which is in Museum, I do not want any more of those. Because they, generally speaking, no, you got Courtyard Boss, that's phase 1 of Dominus. And then you got, and I mean, those guys chuck. Those guys are fine, but that Whipper, no thank you.
I think
I
I
want
want
to
to.
see. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think I want to see more actual bosses, like not act bosses specifically, but more bosses that put stuff on the floor that you have to dodge. There's not like there's that Ziri, there's Storm Call. There's not too much of it, and it's pretty nice. So
You like your MMO mechanics?
yeah, I like it when you have to move around. You don't have to stand still. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Brutus-
And I like when at first it's stressful, but then once you sort of learn the mechanics of how to dodge those things, it becomes very, very practiced. Like when you see skilled players doing Atsuri who are experienced with the fight, they'll just like move slightly.
yep.
There's a lot of QQ
Avoid those things.
associated with Heralds of the Obelisk, but I actually really like that mechanic because it takes away from the standard just hit, kill, go to the next pack. You actually have to pay attention to things like Herald of the Obelisk. I like that. It makes you a better mechanical player. I wouldn't mind if a boss gimmick had something like that. Well, maybe not you kill a mob and a totem spawns, not something like that, but a gimmick where until you kill everything, there's like something there that's going to destroy you.
So like in ads phase, maybe that gets more dangerous until you kill the things.
Yeah, exactly. Or they do something similar like that, like the Brutus in Descent. He spawns skeletons. He has Soul Eater. Things like that. I really like where they make you have to think how you're going to kill this boss. If your damage isn't high enough, you're going to kill too many. You have to leave enough skeletons up. If your damage isn't high enough, the skeletons overwhelm you. Or you have to kill skeletons. Now the boss is insane. I like those kind of gimmicks where it puts you in the driver's seat where you have to think about what you're doing.
That's that idea kind of makes me think I'd like to see more environmental interaction within the boss fight as well. Like maybe you like wreck some stone pillars to change the way the fight plays out, or you have to do certain things within the room, or the room has a bigger impact
Yep.
on
For an
on
act
the fight.
for an act boss, I think that would be really cool. Something
Yeah.
new to bring rather than not necessarily like. It's always nice getting gear upgrades and one-shotting bosses, but at the same time, it's cool for players who don't necessarily have the gear that they can, destroy part of the terrain or something and have it help them in the fight, or whether it changes a little bit of the course of the fight.
I love boss encounters where they take away part of a map or destroy the terrain, and eventually you get closed into this one tiny little area if your damage isn't high enough. You know what I mean? They slowly they'll punch the ground, for example, and that part of that map is no longer accessible. Oh,
Yeah.
I love boss games like that.
Reminds me of one of the fights in Dark Souls 2, I think it was, where the rings fall off around the ground and it gets smaller and smaller, the fight area over time. I like that sort of idea.
Actually, I figured out a debuff I want to see that, or something that a mob applies. I want them to, when you get within the vicinity of them, as long as you're within the vicinity of them, you have reduced light radius.
Oh, like that one map.
Oh, creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
that
I
could be
want it to be-
Slenderman mobs.
Yeah, I want to make it. At first, I was thinking like they hit you and it applies a debuff, and then I was like, well, rip melee because you're always going to get hit. So I was thinking just if you're within the vicinity of the mob or the guy, you'll have reduced light radius. I think it's kind of interesting because people always laugh about light radius. They really do. So I mean, why not? There's really nothing that penalizes you on light radius. Like there's the map where you have reduced light radius, and there's a debuff. There's a debuff that reduces your light radius. That one of the guys do. One of the bosses, I think.
There's that one map, God, yeah, like you mentioned, and boss that reduces light radius. It's Shroudwalker that does.
Yeah, there
that.
you go. There you go. Thank you.
We do have a mob that reduces our light radius. The
blinding
charge-up
guys.
in the sewers
Yep.
blind you and reduce your light radius to 0,
Yep.
which is pretty cool. But yeah, like a creepy, scary mob that spooky, scary skeleton that reduces your light radius. Maybe
A spooky, scary skeleton.
So about the boss, we have to essentially have a boss introduced at the start of the act, and then we fight it at the end. So it's kind of like almost like it has to create the entire story arc.
I
from
would
scratch.
actually prefer that not where you. All right, if you think about Diablo 2 versus 3, I'm doing this right now, Ziggy. In Diablo 2, you just knew Diablo was the bad guy, and when you saw him, the only thing he said to you is, "Not even death can save you from me," and you straight up, had to change your underwear because you were that scared. In D3, you got this guy. It's like, "Oh, you'll never kill me. I'm almost at the top," and he won't shut the hell up. And then you finally get to him, and you're like, "Whatever, Diablo, I'm done with you."
No, I totally want the boss to give us like mental visions and like talk to us in our mind the entire time as we're progressing through the entire act. Zeno, I'd love to see that.
I like suspense more than I like hearing the guy tell me I'm not going to kill him 50 times and then I kill him.
I like the
I'm
suspense. Like
kidding.
think of Merville.
No, you are kidding. All right.
Really, I like the Merville one. I like it when like you're running through Merville's cavern. And
That's
shooting
Yeah,
different.
weapons.
that's cool. That's kind of like creepy and interesting. Like little things, got to like drawing you into the fight because that makes
Yeah.
sense to our character a lot of the thing. But yeah, no, I really don't want to see like an Asmodan saying, "You'll never take down my catapults." Oh, I
Yeah.
guess you took down my catapults. I guess you'll
Exactly.
never-
I want a boss that shuts his mouth until I see him and then I'm scared. I like those. Like, the only thing you know about this boss is what you hear from the people in town or what you read from quest lore, Something to the suspense builder. I don't know.
Okay, so you wanted to kind of just come out. Well, we need something driving us forward. Like, what's the reason we progress through this next act? We need something
Yes,
there.
yes.
But
Like-
yeah, maybe what we actually face, we don't know much about. Maybe we just hear some creepy stories. Here's kind of what I'm thinking, because it's Diala and she opens a portal at the end, and that's kind of like how the game ends right now. If they stick with her, then maybe it sends us to another place, and maybe we get some other dimensional stuff, and maybe the boss can be kind of like we see Dominus's second form, his true form, creepy rabbit skinned rabbit thing. Maybe we get some more otherworldly kind of spawned creatures, maybe the stuff behind Dominus's transformation as the next major boss. And I mean, they could set up some pretty creepy stuff for that. Like, I don't know, could see some interesting things, kind of a little bit more alien, a little bit more from another dimension style enemies. And that we wouldn't really know what to expect before we saw the actual boss then. Then when we finally saw it, we'd be like, oh my god. So that could be pretty cool.
I'm telling you, not even death can save you from me. You'll never forget that. Can you tell me one line Diablo said in Diablo 3? Nope. Because you got tired of hearing them. I think that's the best way to execute a boss in this game is you lead up to suspense, and I think they did pretty good job with the suspense of Dominus. Well, Piety was kind of like that. All right, we get it, Piety. Yup, we get it. But she wasn't the be all end all. She was just like a henchman that you wanted to kill. I would love to see a boss that we're all expecting, but we don't know until we finally see it. We hear about it in town, or we get spooked about it, but the name is never said until we run into it.
I still like Mervale in this suspense. I think that's the best.
Well, Mervale's fine because you don't ever hear from Mervale herself. You're leading up to her, and it's spooky. Your first time playing the game, you're shooting at Mervale ghost. You're like, what the hell? You're scared. You're legitimately like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Shooting at it. I love that. Alrighty, yeah, no, that sounds pretty good. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think they're gonna outdo themselves again on the boss design because every boss so far has been a step up from the last. So I'm expecting some more action set piece sort of boss for this next one. Even though they said they don't want to do too much like environmental moving around stuff, I think they might break their rule on that a little bit for the boss fight maybe, which should be fine. So the next question, which is a pretty hot topic, is how do they fit a new act in? Originally, when they added Act 3, originally they removed a difficulty. They used to do Ruthless difficulty after Cruel. So they removed that when they added Act 3, and what they kind of said ages back in the past was that they would remove a difficulty again when they added another act. But more recently, they've said that's unlikely to happen, and they're more likely to move us down to 2 difficulties once they release Act 5. So we've seen a screenshot recently. There was a UI change screenshot, and this is only a little bit of speculation here. But if I open this up, I think it says Lower Prison Monster Level 8, which was, I think it's Monster Level 9 normally, isn't it? So its levels changed slightly. So I'll link the screenshot in chat there for you guys. That's the UI improvements change. It's got like a nifty little clock and the guys showing up on the map and stuff. Some nice little quality of life changes. But yeah, it sort of showed that maybe they're internally tinkering with some rebalancing of levels, which is kind of what I expect to see happen. A smoothening of the level curve across the acts and across the zones. How would you guys like to see Act 4 implemented? How do you think it will be implemented?
I would like it, well, the leveling curve right now is you're already usually underleveled when you hit a zone anyways. So I don't know. Maybe reducing back the levels of it would be better. I don't know. It's going to take longer to level, it seems like, now that I think about it. If they're drawing back the monster level of each zone to compensate for the fact they didn't remove Cruel. And I'm assuming, what level are we going to start maps? We don't know that. It all depends on what level maps are started. Are the first maps going to be level 70 maps? Are they still going to be 66? Are they going to be 65? Now, we don't know. They didn't mention anything about how the end game is going to work, so it really depends on what level you start end game at.
Well, we can piece together a few little pieces of the puzzle and sort of get an idea of where they might be headed. Chris said that they're pretty happy with how long it takes the highest skilled players to reach endgame now. Well, to reach level 100 now, which is about the 2-month range. So if they move the level of maps upwards, you could say that it would be possible to reach level 100 much faster.
Well,
because you would have higher level content
depends
closer
on
to the level 100.
It depends on the cap of the maps. If the cap is still 78, with the exception of Val Pyramid and Uber-Tsiri.
Oh, you think they would
not Val Pyramid,
smush
Val
the
Temple.
map?
Yeah, that's just speculation. Not definitely. It depends on what level maps start now. If maps are still 66, it would probably take about the same amount of time, right? So maybe they're actually made mapping harder now. Maybe the experience, maybe they overall reduce the amount of experience gained.
That was the other thing I was going to say is if they even if they increase the upper levels of map, if the game in general is harder, which could be happening, then that could slow down progression. Well, they can completely rebalance the way we get XP and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that could change, but I expect we'll see maps pushed back a little bit. I expect like a 70 start out of maps. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And then smoothing out of the level curve, because currently what we have, as you said, where you're often, if you just push through zones quickly without like full clearing side zones and stuff, you end up being like 2 levels under, maybe even a little bit further under as you progress through. And then you stop in some zones and farm quite a bit. I think with the smoothing of the level curve, we would see more just straight clearing through the 3 difficulties, but less farming in zones as you level, especially in, I mean, we almost see none of that in normal now, but we still do see some of that in crawl and certainly in merciless, so maybe a little bit less of that until you get to endgame, before you start repeating content a lot.
You know, a little
Which,
bit of
since you're
ledge,
already
a little bit of
repeating
docks and cruel,
Mhm.
and then merciless you sit in ledge for a little bit, and again docks or cream wherever you farm. You know, it would be nice to not have to do that anymore. No more farming zones. Just progress through the game, and when you're done killing whoever, you could go into maps, and you'd be the like maybe a level or maybe the equal level of that map. It would be great.
Yeah, so it looks like from the screenshot, and I think that's the only way they can implement it is by changing the level balance of zones. So that's what I'd expect to see. So I'd expect to see a smoother run through the game with less farming of specific zones.
I'm
I
trying
think
to
the
think
really efficient players probably still will farm some zones, but
if they take back, let's see, like if you try to figure out how many zones they're putting out, no, that'd be way too much. I was thinking if they reduce the level of 1 and then like add 1 level to each zone. Yeah, I think the safest bet to assume is they're just gonna push maps up like you said, probably to 70, and then try to work it out through that.
I mean they've got heaps of room in the upper levels to do that, to push them back a bit.
I would really, really like to see what we've been talking about. You know how like Zana right now, she can offer you any level map. Well, not any level map, but for instance, you can have a 73 shore. You normally shore 69. It'd be nice to have, when you're doing maps in this game, if you're doing a 66 map, you have the potential of getting 66 to 68 maps. Just it could be any base type. So yes, you have your 78 orchards, or you can have your 78 mountain ledges. I would love to see that in the core of the game. It would help a lot for endgame, and it would also make it so maps don't have a set price. You know, some maps would be more expensive than others, like a 78 mountain ledge versus a 78 orchard. The price difference would be pretty nice. And
78 Gorge.
I prefer mountain ledge over gorge. Gorge just doesn't have as much density. Gorge is just very linear.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, I'd like to see that system too. I can't really see any problems with that. You know, upwards mobility of maps, rather not no downwards mobility though, so you don't see the level 77 maps at 66 though. They should keep that a bit. So yeah, seeing your tropical islands at level 78, 7 and all that, I think would be good.
And it would be a lot less boring. You know, what in the current state of the game is what 278s right now, Courtyard Palace.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there's only so much of that you can do.
We're saying this now based on the current game and that there's not as much map variety, but there will be more map variety once Act 4 comes out. It's going to have more tile sets to play with. They'll add more maps to the map system. But then again, one of the problems is the high-level map variety is very low, and GG is not really that interested in adding much more high-level maps because, like, a percent of players only ever end up playing those. I think they said the stats before was like hardly anyone ever sees like maps over level 76 or 75 or something like that. So that would be a nice way of giving more content for those people who are chaining those 77, 78 maps, while without adding like a whole bunch of extra dev time for them to create maps for those levels.
Yep.
More variety. I think it would only be a good thing.
It's a lot to think about when you realize how much like just changing one little thing, how much it's going to affect it in the end.
Yep. I mean, they've maybe they introduced Zana just to test to see how people would like that, and I think I get excited if I get like a freaking, like I said, if she throws up a cemetery level 76, I'm like sweet. You know, if she throws up something else. And because by the time, like, 76 maps, there's what, 376 maps, 277s, and 278s. You're running the same scenery over and over and over. It's just nice to see different scenery. And plus, you start missing out on, like, mobs that you would normally see, like a little crab, poo-poo shooters, Pohx calls them.
Oh.
Like, I love doing shore and dunes because nothing like seeing a huge blue pack of those suckers come out in a pack-size map, and you're like, yes! Instead of chasing around birds in Courtyard.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how those mobs scale as well. Like mobs that weren't dangerous because you usually see them in Act 1, they're like, all of a sudden, when they're level 77, like, hey, this mob's actually, they mean business. The
Yep.
mechanics of these are a bit more interesting. You start to pay more attention to how they work. I think that can be pretty cool.
Yep. And plus, like, that changes cartographers too. Rise in chat just said that would change the RNG of cartographers. Good. Heck yeah. It's all rolling the dice with the cartographer even more now, and that'd be awesome.
So, where's the next part here?
You gotta fire it up.
So, yeah, I think we've got a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. I feel like that's how they'll implement it. I can't imagine really anything else. But yeah, as to how they sort of tinker with the map system, that remains to be seen. What new skills would you like to see? Pohx kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, and in the Q&A they did mention the words, we'll be implementing new ice skills. With a plural, guys. Ice skills. So Pohx wants like a firestorm, ice storm thing. A Merveil style ice storm.
I think not just that specifically, but I think it's more of just there's not a lot of degeneration / small increment hitting skills in PoE. There's like chaos degen, prolif, and then things that hit really quickly like lightning tendrils and stuff. Whereas your other things like cold snap is one big hit, glacial cascade is like 2 to 3 hits, maybe 4 sometimes, or freeze pulse is just one hit between with multiple projectiles. It's nice to see other skills with that small incremental. I don't know. Maybe it's just me who just likes seeing it. So it's cool.
And I think everyone would like to see some frost orb, some frozen orb.
Frozen orb.
Agreed.
Yep.
I mean, you have ball lightning, but that's not nearly the same.
People keep trying to make them builds out of it, ball lightning, but it's just not the same, man. It's just not the same. Freezing things with ball lightning isn't the same. It's freezing them with cool spinny shards of ice business. So, yeah. I mean, those are two different mechanics, like the skill Pohx mentioned and Frozen Orb, that we don't currently have in terms of ice skills. I mean, we've got an ice spear, we've got like a pulse of cold, that's freezing pulse. I think is a pretty cool and interesting spell. We've got Ice Nova, which is your Nova skill. I mean, what else do we have, ice wise?
Yeah, a lot of the cold spells right now, like. They're very rippy to reflect unless you get Valpack because they deal such consistent damage and high damage, but they do have a high crit chance. Like, I don't know, the cold spells overall, they definitely need to work, or something new that's fun. Glacial Cascade was the last cold spell introduced, and it's a hybrid skill, and it travels on the ground. A lot of people don't really care for that, me included. It's good, but it's preference. I would love to see a new frost skill for sure. You got your ball lightnings with their 3 dragons, man. Every time I see that build, I'm like, I want to be like the chick from Mean Girls. It's not going to happen. Stop making it happen.
Yes, and Frostball, as Osna pointed out in chat. We also have Frostball. Here's what I would like to see. I would like to see a legit main primary poison spell. We don't have a poison spell. We don't have many, like Chaos poison, same diff. We don't really have much. I mean, we've got bloody Desecrate. That's not main skill. It's a summoner skill. But I mean, we've got this witch who seems like could use some pretty cool stuff like that. And I think the Shadow could maybe get behind some of that action as well. Give them some sort of cool chaos spell. I think we could say something pretty good. Could be like a Poison Nova. Could be like a projectile Poison Nova that shoots out a bunch of projectiles, Endarial style. Or we could get maybe like a
Poison Orb.
I don't know, something that explodes. Like, I mean, I feel like Corpse Explosion that explodes poison. I mean, we already have Detonate Dead, which is fire-based, but I feel like that would have been such a good chaos.
Well,
it's a shame it's not. We do have the Warcry, though.
It is rather frustrating that there's a bunch of skills that have already been, the art has already been spent on, the design's already behind, that we don't have in the game for us to use. For instance, the Chaos EK. EK is one of those, resident sleeper skills that people just want to see changed or whatnot. There you go. That's one way, introduce us to the Chaos EK that these mobs have. Or like some of those skeletons in Crematorium, they just shoot like a random lightning bolt, ice bolt, or freaking fire bolt. It's already in the game. Why don't we have access to that? I've always wondered that. Or even like the Freezing Pulse MTX, a little frozen tornado. You know, like, why don't we have that MTX? Give it to us. Every time I see it, I just like, I want it now.
What about a chaos skill that has like a built-in proliferation? You fire a projectile,
Yes.
hits an enemy, and then it proliferates to nearby enemies, and then proliferates to other nearby enemies, putting like a chaos dot between them, and it kind of like spreads like a plague through the enemies. I mean,
Hey.
that feels so chaotic and so like poisony too. I think
Yeah.
that'd be pretty damn
The
cool.
Herald Sprinkler skill, yeah, that's another one. Like, there's all these cool gimmicks in the game that we don't have access to. They've already spent the money on it. Why not just throw it into a gem and balance around it? Like Ball Lightning, that's how Ball Lightning started. Give us parties, Ball Lightning, right? And then it happened. All right, what's the next question?
Let me go back up. So, no other skills you guys would want to see? Anything specific? I feel like there's so many skills in the game that cover so many of the bases. I feel like we've covered a lot of the ones that sort of feel like they don't exist. A
Yep.
chaos spell, some ice spells seem to be missing. I think there's room for something else in the lightning realm, but I don't know how it would work exactly.
I think
I
a new-
mean, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think a new category of skills. Like we have Novas, we have
Novas are all pretty bad, though.
yeah, we have just a new category. Like what is there? I can't think. You have like your genre of like melee elemental skills of AOE, this that etc. And then people try to recreate them. Like, oh, I'm gonna make a fire nova, or I'm gonna make a chaos firestorm, or I'm gonna try to do this. Well, I think people are doing that because they want a new category of skill. Like, so I think that'd be cool. I don't know what I could think of though.
We're getting Warcries, which is a new
Yeah. Oh
category
yeah.
of
Yeah.
skill,
That's totally
technically.
true. That's totally true.
I
New topic
I
and everything.
don't think I'd expect to see another new category in addition to that. But yeah, I mean, there's only so many ways you can apply damage to something, isn't there?
Releasing a direct damage chaos spell would, I hate to say it, it's hard to balance around because you don't have to worry about reflect, and with life leech or Val pack with it, it's pretty absurd. And plus, here it comes, PvP. Not everybody's going ham on the Chaos Res. And maybe if it's a level 31 gem, so LOD doesn't have access to it. Well, not that LOD worries about Chaos anyways, because they don't have the minus 60. It's fairly easy for them to get a decent Chaos Res, I would assume. But direct damage Chaos is very hard to balance. I believe Rory said that in the past.
Rise brings up an interesting point. So my chaos skill idea that spreads to enemies, he suggests, would that be a fix for proliferation, like having it spread to enemies rather than being a static AoE in the location? How do you feel like that would impact proliferation? I mean, proliferation's always a hot topic.
I feel like I wouldn't use proliferation if it hit one target at a time.
Yeah.
Not one target at a time, but I guess like spread to mobs, like through like an AoE based on the mob that had it at the time.
Rather,
Yeah. Yeah, like think about the way like
Like
a
a ring?
wildfire burns. Like you have a central point where it ignites, then it spreads out, and then it extinguishes. But the central parts are extinguished as they burn out.
Yeah,
Like
that
how it
sounds
would
actually
function.
pretty cool. I like it.
I'm just tired of every chaos spell coming out being a degen or some sort of gimmick. Like, it'd be nice to have that freaking, I don't know, like you said, Ziggy, it'd be good. But everything, like, in this game, if you have to wait for your damage, the classic age-old clear speed comes into effect and you feel like you're just hurting yourself. I don't know.
Like
So
fly attacking.
with the help of Rich J Money, I think that we have created a really good chaos-based skill. What if you summon a dead drop bear above your target, and it falls and just releases all these toxic gases it has accumulated through its lifespan?
What's the next question?
Wow!
That's so harsh. Okay. What sort of general meta shifts do you guys think we'll see from Act 4, or would like to see? Right from the outset, we know that there seems to be a lot of stuff going on with melee. It's always been a hot topic, melee versus range. It always is in action RPGs. In RPGs, it's always difficult to balance melee versus range just because of the inherent fact that you have to get next to enemies. But it seems like they may be trying to. I don't think they're trying to slow down the game exactly, because I think they're pretty happy with the fact that Path of Exile plays at a faster pace now. But maybe make it a little bit more strategic when it comes to melee, with the addition of things like Warcries and removing one of the cast on damage taken features. So I sense a bit of a meta shift in terms of making the game a little bit more strategic. which is something that's very attractive to me. I like the older school days of Path of Exile where we had to think a little bit more about the defensive skills we used and use them more actively. What do you guys think?
I don't know. Melee's like, it's always, no matter what game you play, it's always melee sucks because they take more damage. And it's like, isn't that what melee's supposed to do? Isn't that what the gimmick behind melee is? Range is safer because they are ranged. You know, the age-old melee needs a buff. Really, it's just, I think you're not playing defensive enough. Melee does insane damage. It could use some sort of defensive tweaks. Maybe armor itself should be changed. Evasion's pretty good. But I think, honestly, armor is the bigger problem, not so much melee.
If they do, like you guys said, redesign the way that the taunts work on the Warcries in addition to adding other Warcries, then something I was thinking about is like one of the attractions of playing melee is to take damage, to be a tank. In a lot of RPGs, that's a thing, having tanks. In action RPGs, tanks are not a thing. Like, you make a tanky character just to survive. You don't make a tanky character to tank enemies so much. Like, that's a very minor point. But maybe if there was a very solid taunt, then maybe we would start to see the rise of people building as tanks for a party. And yeah, maybe that could actually work if they changed the way the taunt worked, made it more sticky.
The problem with melee in this game is I've been playing a lot of CI, and CI is tankier than armor. Like, I have 14k health, I have 12k health. It doesn't matter what my armor is because I have so much HP. If you have that thought process, armor should probably get a readjustment, because if you play a CI Reaver with 12k ES, it's fine. It's more than fine. You know, you're melee, right? Or you play a CI, any melee spec with CI, you'll notice how tanky you actually are versus an armor character. I'm saying right now, armor just needs the big hits. The big hits, need to be changed how it works with armor. A direct damage reduction without having just to use Soul Seal or Endurance charges. I don't know.
Yeah, didn't you say they're gonna be doing something with it? So it's not. I mean,
they hinted, but there's no confirmation.
They hinted at melee specifically.
Yeah, maybe like if you're using a melee skill, or if you're using a melee skill in combat, you get like a 10% overall reduced damage taken, or something gimmick like that. Like in, oh god, I hate bringing up this game, but Diablo 3, like, don't monks and barbs have like reduced damage taken automatically because they're melee classes or something? You can't really do that in PoE because melee ranged is dependent on the build you play, not the class you pick.
Yeah, you need like a context-sensitive thing or something that doesn't affect range. There's been some ideas that would potentially work of it being something behind a keystone or something. So there's some ways they could do that, but yeah, that doesn't exactly work in Path of Exile like it does in other games.
Yeah,
because of our flexibility with builds. It's the kind of the curse of flexibility.
The double-edged sword.
Yep. Someone sort of made an interesting point. It's like, what's the point of tanks when everything dies in 2 seconds? This kind of like brings up the topic of speed in the game. ZiggyD have said they're happy with the game being faster like it is now, and I agree. Like, for the most part, 9/10 of me agrees that the game is more attractive now. I think it's more fun to play overall. I think it is. It's hard to tell. I think the game is more fun to play. And sort of cruising through and crushing mobs is always fun in action RPGs. But I think once clear speed starts to become more and more of the focus and things die faster and faster and we get stronger and stronger, diversity starts to suffer because you start to ignore a lot of those mechanics of the game that make Path of Exile unique. A lot of those interesting defensive mechanics, a lot of the considerations you have to have of certain monsters. Like, I mean, if you're just killing everything straight away, then the interesting skills that the monsters have start to become a non-issue. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Like, the idea of making things die a little bit slower, reducing the speed a little bit. You've got to still keep that fast, fun feeling that the game has got now going on, but yeah, without it hurting the diversity.
I don't know. I think it's really difficult to balance that because so many builds right now, so many builds survive off just being able to kill things instantly. Like, I would say like 85% of the builds survive because they kill everything. And then the only another con I could see is from a split perspective of playing in Standard League. I mean, their dream is to like they go above and beyond. Like, we one-shot, like, rare mobs in hardcore. That's our goal. It's like one-shotting pretty much everything. Bosses take a little longer. And Standard, it's like, no. Our goal is to one-shot the bosses. Like, I want to one-shot at Ziri. Like, if if their clear speed starts going down and they've invested so much time into, perfecting everything, I think it can hurt, multiple sides at the same time. But I do not like the fact that you bypass so many mechanics, with just clear speed or, quick stunning. I think, going back to like stunning something is actually like a really cool mechanic. Like when, remember, you used to perma-stun bosses and whatnot for like survivability and such.
In my instance, I'm going to play, despite what most of you guys think I'm going to say about this, I actually think making the game slower is bad for the game. My problem with clear speed is the player, not so much the game. I think clear speed is fun and it's important to strive for, but when that becomes the only thing you're obsessed with, clear speed or tooltip warriors as I call them, you need to reassess the game. That's not how everybody plays the game. However, nerfing how quick you kill something is bad for an action RPG. The way how I've always seen an action RPG, when something is overpowered, maybe tune it back a little bit and buff something else to make it equal to it or slightly better than it. Because, for instance, swords right now. Swords going crit swords is a joke. Playing non-crit swords, you're just like, well, I'll just go crit. I'll go crit daggers, for example. And perhaps maybe making it an alternate way that these weapons work. Like axes right now are probably the worst weapon base in the game. Buff axes. Don't nerf daggers, buff axes. So that way, not everything is just daggers with clear speed. Now you have an option for axes as well.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fine. Like you're saying that players have the decision to play slower if they want to. I always think of that and think the fact that humans just really have a solid tendency to, take the easiest path, the path of least resistance, and it's hard to avoid our nature there. So I think sometimes you have to force people to stop and smell the roses a little bit. I don't know. So I guess I kind of disagree. I'm very much in two minds about it because I feel like Path of Exile is more fun than it's ever been.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I'm worried about losing some of those unique mechanics.
I agree. Go on.
I was going to say, instead of making the mobs take longer to kill, introduce more mechanics like Herald of Obelisk or Otherworldly. Otherworldly, good luck trying to kill them in one hit. And you got to be scared when they have that buff on them. They take reduced damage and they deal a ton of damage. That's a great way to slow down the clear speed, yet not making it so the entire map is slow. Just that one pack. And you have to assess how you're going to play rather than just mindlessly crit multi freeze everything with your Reeve, however you see it.
Yeah, anything that forces you to stop and pay attention to what's going on, I think is awesome.
Yep.
But I guess then maybe the idea is that it only happens every now and then. Like, yeah, every now and then you run into a Bloodlines pack that does that. Every now and then you run into a Nemesis pack that does that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my take on it is I agree with both of you guys in a sense. So I agree with Zeno in the sense that you want that feeling, that accomplishment of being able to just speed through and one-shot everything because it's a great feeling. But I agree with Ziggy because skipping mechanics that are already in the game, like, sure, you can throw in more stuff you have to dodge. Like Zeno was saying, when you kill it, you have to dodge it. But there's already mechanics in the game that you're bypassing, like just general mobs that charge you. You just, okay, you're dead. You couldn't even make it to me. So I think that I don't necessarily think there needs to be a balance. I just think, I don't really know what I think. I just want to make sure that things are still like, I don't even know how to word it. I just want to make sure the game isn't 100% based off of, so let me stack all the damage in the world and I can just kill everything so I never have to worry about anything. Rather than just a few instances of dodging here and there or having an otherworldly.
And always in the sense of an action RPG, your goal isn't always to hit level 100, and some it is, or to hit level cap. I like the idea of like D2 or PoE where if you hit level cap, great, you strove for that, you got it, you strived, whatever. My English is really amazing. But the point I'm trying to make is the real point of the game is to feel that godly. Look how fast I attack. Look how fast I cast. Spell Echo changed the game because spell totems were the only thing used to make you feel like that. And then Spell Echo comes out and you're shooting like a million freaking casts per second and you feel awesome. That's what people relate to in action RPG. So hurting clear speed is actually like hurting the game. Look at what's it called, Necrovigil. I think Necrovigil's fine. It's annoying as hell, but so many people are like, I don't want to be bothered with it, skip it. Or P-Link. P-Link is garbage. I agree, P-Link is garbage. But it's important to have something in the game so you're not zombie mode just flying through content. It's nice to have maybe once in a while something to slow you down.
Here's where I disagree on this point. I think from a psychological standpoint, people hate these things that feel like they slow them down a great deal. So, as you said, everyone hates Necrovigil, everyone hates P-Link, everyone hates like the fact that they have to slow down when they run into some obelisks and stuff like that. And I think Rose said that in chat. Everyone hates these mechanics that slows them down, and that's because the baseline speed of the game is much higher than what these slow you down to. I think bringing the average down means that you still have the feeling of, comparatively growing stronger, but by slowing everything down a little bit, the entire game becomes a little bit more considered, but you don't have to have those big slowdowns, so the things that you do bump into just bump you down a little bit. You kind of get what I'm saying there? I feel like the big change in pace is what frustrates people. Like, running into those bloody, leap slammer dudes slowing me down in Scepter of God is, super frustrating. Or, bubble guys...
Those little ice shot statues?
They slow me down so much. Yeah, anything that slows me down because I'm used to such a faster pace now is really frustrating. I think maybe just bringing the average down, making those things less of an impact, would make the entire game more considered, but would make those things be less frustrating.
Yeah, I just don't like immune mechanics. Necrovigil is annoying as hell because they're go immune. P-Link's annoying because why was that ever made? But, if the monster could still receive damage, you could still leech, like Otherworldly, where it can get destroyed really quick when they don't have their aura, I think it's fine. Like someone said in chat, it's when it's a hassle, it's a problem, but, if they take reduced damage, you could deal with it. Yeah. Anyways, next question.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. In the end, it's hard to balance it.
I mean, it's a very tough. I don't envy GGG with this one because that's a tough decision to make. Do they slow down the general pace of the game and maybe have it have a big negative impact and less people liking the game, or do they have these sort of frustrations that instead frustrate people and drive them away, but then have no, or if they get rid of those frustrations, is it just the game just becomes a face roll?
They could release on blue and yellow packs monsters that aren't affected by critical strike multiplier. Something like that, where they're still easily killed, but they're not gonna, I don't know, things like that, where they're not immune, but it's damage mitigation of some sort. Yeah.
I feel like this is an important point, though, that the severity of the impact on your clear speed is what is frustrating. The things that really slow you down or bring things to a standstill, like when there's that really big change in speed, is what's really frustrating, rather than little changes in speed. So, I don't know, I think that is maybe what needs to be explored. I would like a little smaller changes in speed, but not the super big frustrating things that I hate. Everyone hates. Okay, so the final thing before we move on to Q&A, this is kind of, Zeno had his soapbox. This is my soapbox. The trading system, what we'd like to see with Act 4, and trading system overhaul. So, from the perspective of most of us who are probably watching this podcast or have been playing, since beta or have been playing for a long time, the current trading system works. I function just fine within the current trading system. It's actually not that hard, kind of once you get used to it, but it's very unattractive to newer players, and it's frustrating for a great deal of players. GGG have talked for quite a while about a new trading system or a trading system overhaul. The idea is that it would be an asynchronous trading system overhaul. And the point would be to reduce the frustration at time it takes to find a player to trade with, and then to conclude the trade. They still want that haggling and interaction between players to occur. It just doesn't necessarily have to happen in live, real time. So you can essentially trade with someone who's never online at the same time as you, because you can have that asynchronous trading. Now, the idea is that they can be done through a browser or your web client, so you can sort of check these trades by then, or you can list some things in a stash tab and then have them get offers and then accept or sort of counter those offers in the morning when you get online. So these sorts of things, I think, would make the game a lot less frustrating for a lot of new players coming to the game with Act 4. Now, here's what I think. I think GGD absolutely has to add the trading system overhaul with Act 4. I feel like this is the last big chance to get a lot of players that return to the game to check out Act 4 to stick with the game, to become long-term players, and to introduce a lot of new players to the game who will be coming with Act 4 for the first time ever, to have them stay with the game as well. I think it would make a huge impact on player retention. Now, it's not a very glamorous thing to add a trading system compared to adding a whole bunch of new content, But I think even if it means delaying Act 4, and that might not be a very popular opinion, but even if it means delaying Act 4 to get this trading system in when Act 4 releases, I'm not talking like a month, it's like, we'll put it in a month later, just like Cutthroat League, we'll put it in a month later. I want it to be there right at the start of Act 4.
Yeah.
I think, like, retaining new players is such an important thing to me,
Oh, yeah.
and I think it's important to Path of Exile as well. And I think this will have a huge impact.
I agree with you, Ziggy. I want a trade system in place. I don't want an auction house. The auction house is most of the time you just settle with the buyout, or you have to wait 24 hours for whatever the hell you're bidding on. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I like being able to barter. Bartering is important. Or in an auction house, the guy puts it up for 7 chaos while I have 14 fuse. He might want my fusings, but I can't trade that. I think, like you said, they need to implement this trading system and not an auction house on Act 4 because it will help the player retention a lot. Trade is a big problem in this game. It is extremely frustrating messaging someone that's flagged online on a freaking third-party website and they're not there. Or when
it's
you
gotten worse, hasn't it?
and then you message someone who is online and they're AFK, and an hour later, hey, you still interested? I've done this too. I've been the AFK guy. I didn't realize I left my procurement open, for example. I come back, hey, you still interested? No, I bought something else and I'm not happy with what I bought. I'd rather buy yours, but now I don't have the money to buy it. It's like it's just frustrating as all hell. And I think this trade system coming in would be so good for this game. How do you feel about that, self-found Pohx?
To be fair, I don't really have much of a say because for people who know me, I don't really trade. I don't really. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ziggy's standpoint. Just on the fact that it's great to introduce all of this at once since you're going to be getting an influx of new players and everything. It's important that people see this is what's changed, or even if they've never played, like, oh, this is how this works. But I also would agree with you on the auction house thing of if it's just a single currency thing, like, oh, he puts it up for 9 chaos and you have whatever the equivalent is in fusings or alchemy orbs, and you're unable to buy it. That's bad. Like, what do we do in PoE when we want something? We'll pay more because we want it right now. Like, oh, I just swapped into my new unique chess piece, and oh, look at that, I have 52% lightning res. Time to go buy something. You want 6 chaos? I don't care. I'll give you 10. I want a map. I mean, that's me. So I definitely would disagree with something that's not going to allow you to do that, like an auction house. But then again, they can twist and turn whatever it is that they like.
Making, in like some Korean grind MMOs, they have like you set up your little marketplace while you go AFK and people can come buy your things, like things like that are kind of interesting.
That's what I like.
I do like that, which is pretty much, not pretty much, but it's similar to what Ziggy's wants to be implemented, where...
Well, that's basically what they've said they want to implement.
Yeah, where...
But, you don't have to be online. Like, it can be a stash tab that you have that you put gear in, and then you, say, I would like to get offers of this amount. I would like to get offers of 3 chaos. Someone goes, I would like to pay 3 chaos for that, and then you go, I'll accept that. It has to be that back and forwards, and, something that you can essentially chuck your items in there and, price them. Sort of like what we do with procurement, right? How we right-click and put our prices on them in procurement, but having it built into the game.
I do I don't like trade at all, but I've made it a point to learn how to do it because it's the only way you can get a lot of endgame 6 links and those awesome GG weapons. So it was like I did the whole if you can't beat them, join them kind of gimmick. And I will say, trade in this game, it's easy to make money. It's just frustrating as all hell to make money.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people who will try out the game in Act 4. They'll get the trading frustrations. They won't be able to make the cool builds they want to make, and then they'll leave after a week or 2.
Yep.
And that might be the only chance to capture those people. Like, those people, might not come back to the game after that point.
I
hate the thought of that.
I will say my biggest beef with poe.trade using these third-party things, they're nice. They add so much to the trade in this game, yes, that GGG hasn't implemented, but it's really frustrating seeing that GG item you want to buy and that guy hasn't been on the past 2 months. And that crap should not be up on poe.trade, but that's just third-party gimmicks and whatnot. If someone's not playing the game, that item should not be up for you to browse at, because you salivate over it and you're like, when is he coming online?
I want to state that I'm sorry for being that guy because my stuff is still up there. So,
so yeah, I think a system that makes it a lot easier to find people to trade with, and then the fact that you can still complete trades without the person being online. I think that will just be such an enhancement to the game for so many people. I mean, as I said, most of us function fine within the current system, but it's still a frustration. It's a frustration even for us who are good at the current system. I think most of us still find it frustrating at times. Like, as I said, messaging those people that aren't online, that will be a non-issue if they implement this system. And I mean, it's eventually going to happen. They're working on it, and they want it to happen. I think the most important point is that they get it in at the start of Act 4, even if it means delaying Act 4. I don't know. That's
Measure
what I really
twice,
hope.
cut once. Measure twice, cut once. I agree.
Yeah.
So let's fire off some Q&A now that we're all salty. Yes.
Yes. So, from Vor, we have, how would you build... Hold on. No, this is not a good question for a podcast. It's how would you build a character, including links and items and passive tree. So I'm gonna skip that one. Sorry, man. Those are good questions for outside of a podcast. Ran Rocknar, what do you believe to kill the most people in the 1 month league? So we're gonna have some interesting combinations with Bloodlines and Torment stuff. What do you guys reckon?
All right, so you're gonna have tormented spirits. Apparently, they spawn more in maps, and what Torment did not have is a void spawn of Abyssal. So maybe the combination of those, you would have to run a Beyond map to normally get that. As well, Living Blood's kind of easy, so a Tormented Living Blood we've never seen in this game, or unless they pay for, again, the Torment or Bloodlines map mods. And what else is there? What else can spawn a unique... Oh, the Animate Guardian guy could be kind of annoying if he's Tormented and immune, so we'll see how that works.
The, what is it? Congealed blood with turbo.
Oh man,
like
that's
the rogue torment that makes them really fast.
The poison one. The poison one's the scariest one of the bloods, but they die really quick. But
Yeah.
the animate guy that's immune while he's chucking... I think that guy is point blank. I really do. Because his spectral throws hit so much harder at close range than when you're far away. He might have... I don't know. I'm going to ask GGG about that one.
I mean, I think this is what's going to happen because the hardcore players will continue to play the hardcore variant, and so most of the players who play the standard will play the standard one. So I expect that mostly the hardcore players are pretty used to Bloodlines now, and they're going to be killed by things related to tormented spirits. That's what I think is going to happen. Just like what happened with lockboxes. Maybe not as severe as what happened with lockboxes, because the tormented spirits aren't quite as dangerous as lockboxes are. I think lockboxes are a little bit more rippy. But I think mostly we're going to see hardcore players getting killed by tormented spirits, especially if they happen to combine with bloodlines.
Can a tormented spirit haunt an actual lockbox?
No.
Like,
No, they can't. There was a rumor or a myth going around
Okay.
that for a while, but no, they can't.
I just wanted to confirm.
Tormented Peeling.
Started.
Oh yeah. I don't know too much about the tormented spirit, sadly. That's why I'm really excited to play this league.
You know what's going to be crazy? Like a Martyr Stormbearer spec, like... Stormbearers, they explode on death, but after like 2 seconds, and Martyr explodes on death, right? Or is that volatile? Like, things like that. Is it Martyr?
Yeah, martyrs, I'm pretty sure, explode.
So like the double Martyr type scenario where the double explosions, screw that.
I hate to say it, and it's kind of a sign of some of the issues with Torment. I played heaps of Torment, and yet I still, don't really recognize a lot of what the tormented spirits do because you generally just kill them and don't even really notice. So I think they weren't quite as impactful as they could have been. It's the fact that you just don't really take as much notice of them. Like, I'm more familiar with the Bloodlines mobs than I am with the Tormented stuff. And I've only played, one Bloodlines character, so...
And you had a blast doing it, did you not?
I did have a very good time. It's a very cool league. Very cool league. It was good fun. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question then. From Enforce... What do you guys think if they combine the 1 month into a single player base, but you still can checkmark your character as being softcore or hardcore? Void League or SC can't trade with hardcore players. So the idea is similar to what Pohx was talking about with a self-found checkbox, but having a hardcore checkbox and not having them be separate. I don't know.
I am 100% totally in full agreement of that. I would drop $100 into the game if they put that in.
No, he's
Bring
not.
the player base together?
No, he's not saying self-found Pohx. He's saying make it all one league for trading purposes, but you can check your character hardcore or not.
Hardcore and softcore in the same league. I can definitely see some elitist people getting angry about that idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say never mind. I got a little excited there. No, I don't think that's a good idea because that's just gonna be like you're gonna play public parties or something, and you're gonna actually wait. Can you guys play together? Right?
Yep.
Or no? Is that okay? Yeah, you're gonna see people in public parties. And I think it's just going to ruin the hardcore base because The softcore guys can die as much as they want, carry the hardcore guys to 100.
Yeah.
So
There's definitely some issues there, for
It's
sure.
a bad idea.
Different playstyle issues. You would have to have them not be able to party together, but then what's the point of them being in the same league, except for, like, trading and stuff? I don't know, yeah. You would get people, softcore players, like, farming like crazy high-level content to feed the hardcore players stuff.
Not
I
only
think there's
that,
too many issues there. It's a nice idea to bring people together, but...
Softcore and economy is already expensive. Now the things that aren't expensive in softcore, usually the hardcore items, like your lightning coils, things like that, are now expensive, so it's like, you can't win.
Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, as I said, it's a nice idea, like, yay, there'd be no more elitism, everyone's playing together, but I don't think it would actually work.
It wouldn't work.
I think as like a sub-league, something for like a little bit, I like the idea of it being as a side thing because in my experience, I like streaming hardcore, I like playing hardcore, but literally like 99% of my friends that have followed me from previous games do not like playing hardcore. And I miss playing with them, and I can't really play with them because I don't always want to play non-hardcore. So being able to play with my buddies would be a really cool idea, but I don't know if this is the game to dedicate an entire league, you know, or something just for that purpose.
Well, to be fair, he was suggesting it as a thing for the 1 month.
Right. But I'm saying I like the idea.
Experiment.
Yeah, I really like it for that reason.
Okay, from Lekyril, what would you be looking forward to in new leagues mechanics? So I think he's talking about like the challenge leagues. What challenge league mechanics would you guys like to see? I want them to be very subtle, or just really minor, because we're having a whole new act coming out, and I think that's what will happen. But do you guys have any ideas of what you'd like to see?
Yeah, I don't want anything like Rampage where it's just like Mountain Dews and airstrikes everywhere. Like, I thought Rampage was probably their most failed league, but I would like something as subtle as Rampage where it doesn't get added to the core of the game, but it's still fun. I think Beyond was okay. You know, I do like the element of random things popping up. You know, that actually added a lot to maps. They nerfed cartographers and they nerfed Beyond mobs, and then maps were like, everyone, GGG nerfed map drop rates. No, they just nerfed cartographers, and Beyond no longer exists. So, I don't know. I'd like something subtle, like Ziggy said, that isn't too overwhelming, because we already have Act 4 to learn.
Yeah, I almost want to experience like what the new stuff is adding. Like they're making so many changes to the game, not just adding a new act. It's not just the new act that's going to be different; it's going to be everything that's different. So I kind of want to experience that without it being sort of confused by another mechanic as well.
Yeah, I don't want any loot explosions either. I think we have enough loot explosion gimmicks or mechanics, because I can't say gimmick anymore.
I like the alternatives to magic finding we have now. The game is getting more interesting now for me in that regard. Okay. SSQ12345. Would you like a new fizz mitigation mechanic that scales up temporarily as you take damage, making melee survive more when you're in combat and being hit? It's a pretty cool idea.
This really doesn't change the fact that a big hit's still a big hit, because you're going to take that first big hit and it's not going to be mitigated. The thing armor excels at is a series of very small hits. And this would aid in that.
Do the same thing. Yeah,
exactly.
So it would not fix a problem. It would just assist something that's already not a problem. That's a good point. It needs to be those, like that one big hit that happens every now and then that gets the extra mitigation. Good point. I like the idea, but yeah, that doesn't really fix anything, does it? Rise QT asks, what do you think about adding CC skills to the game? Maybe Vile Gems, cooldown dependent, and due to that remove instant logout. Oh! Oh, there.
I would be, actually, if you have oh shit buttons in PoE, like actual legitimate, like, even if I'm desynced, it's going to freeze everything in a 3-screen radius, then I'm okay with removing logout. But I need to make sure that when I hit that button, it's actually no, never mind. Yeah, it's okay, because you can still. I was thinking if you get locked out of a boss room, you can still portal, so it's okay. But I mean, I think it'd be cool. I think the biggest problem with this, though, which might sound silly, is builds that are already hotkey starved cannot do this. Because logging out is not a hotkey. Logging out is just logging out. I've played, I think, 4 builds where I literally don't have any keybinds. So forcing me to have to use a keybind and not being able to log out anymore is kind of a bad thing. But I do like that idea of having a CC skill like
It doesn't
it's
fix network issues, and
right.
it would have to not work on bosses, I think, or you can have a party just chain use your hard CC skills to
There
kill the
already
boss.
Yep.
are CC skills. You already have stun
Mm.
mechanics. You already have freeze mine, which is rarely used. I mean, that stuff's already out there already.
Yeah, but a
Raz is
cooldown
saying in
based
chat,
CC.
like having like having an extra button that's like a like a logout macro, but instead doesn't log the game out, doesn't like close the game. I like the idea
Mm,
of something that can save your character and keep the current design of the game as being a little bit more edgy,
leave the
but
You gotta leave
but
the
not
logout button.
shutting the game down or something or logging you out. Maybe like an insta portal back to town or something. Then you're at least consuming a portal scroll.
Meh. Next
Yeah.
question.
Wow.
Okay.
We already have a
Um,
the logout button. Why change it?
Well, we don't have an actual logout button, and they could like a button you can press that instantly logs you out. They could implement that, and then there would be not as many complaints of logout macroing and stuff versus not logout macroing. I don't know. I like the idea of having long cooldown, cool CC skills though. A Blazin asks, how would you feel if they slowed down the game greatly, but increasing difficulty? Hold on. How would you feel if they slowed the game down greatly, but increasing difficulty immensely, as well as increasing XP per mob, perhaps creating a less repetitive game? I've played other action RPGs that do that, and they always feel really boring.
Mhm.
It's a shame. Like you get action RPGs where instead of fighting a pack of mobs, you fight 3 mobs, and they give the same XP and the same progression, and maybe it gets a little bit more strategic with the mobs, but they just end up feeling really boring and sparse and empty.
Yeah,
So it's hard to do that.
what's so enjoyable about PoE is running a beyond pack size map and just, whatever skill you're using, just lobbing the skill into like 75 monsters and just watching this explosion of things occur. And removing that is I mean that's what's unique to PoE and part of it. There's a lot of aspects of it, but having so much density in PoE and just obliterating all of it is a great feeling.
You can definitely have too many mobs to the point where it starts to feel uninteresting, but I think the current density we have is pretty good. I think if you start making more mobs than what we have now, you need to start moving into physics-based combat territory where you can push mobs around a lot more. Like if you guys have seen the Lost Ark trailers and Lineage trailers, where those games have crazy density, have like hundreds of mobs on screen, but you can push them around with your attacks. Like there's heaps of physics in the combat, and Path of Exile doesn't support that. So I think I'm pretty happy with where the current density is in the game overall.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Alrighty. Wannabe asks, what's up with the unique design by the community? Can't wait to see the next vote. So I didn't want to push the guys on the most difficult part while they're designing Act 4. That's basically it. So it's basically on a break at the moment. We're designing currently, because, when you design a unique, the most time-consuming part is figuring out the unique modifier, the main unique modifier, and working out the back end of that, working out the mechanics. And we need to make at least 4 of those. So, because it's a vote. So that part's the longest part for this, but I'm kind of waiting until they've finished work with Act 4, and then we'll get back onto that. I didn't want to slow down Act 4 for everyone just to make the community unique. So we're waiting for now. So, but we'll continue that, guys. It'll still happen. There'll be another vote soon. Legionary asks, how do you feel about Frenzy and the mana cost of it, and do you feel it needs a change when comparing against Puncture as a single target? And this one is directed at you, Zeno.
Of course it
I was
is.
gonna say.
Frenzy falls in the same line where it just costs too much mana and doesn't deal enough damage. It forces you to go Blood Magic. In order to to run Frenzy on Mana Leech, you need like a stupid high mana pool in a 6-link, like 2,000 plus mana with base mana regen included. Like honestly, Frenzy just needs a complete rework. If Frenzy does not get a rework and Elemental Hit, I'm gonna be super salt man. Like those skills, they just suck. They too little damage, too much mana cost. Why? Oh, and I have to use Melee Splash. All right, next.
Can I really fast? Can I bring up something
Go
as
ahead.
a side note? So I find this to be extra humorous because here in the household, for people who don't know, Zeno and I are roommates, and sometimes we use like Elemental Hit and Frenzy as like jokes around the house in real life terms. So anytime I hear people asking about like buffs to Frenzy and Elemental Hit, it brings me back to like a real life scenario where I've used it as like a trolling manner, and it's just really funny. I just wanted to say that being a nerd is a great thing.
Yep. Good job, guys. Embrace the nerd.
Old Frenzy. The problem with Frenzy before was it was actually quite good, but then the Val Warp changed how Frenzy works because you can get +1 on the Dark Rays, you can get +1 on the necklaces, and that's 10 Frenzy charges. Even 9 is absurd, and they had to balance around that. And when they nerfed this skill itself, they didn't nerf the mana cost. The mana cost is like 19 at level 20. What melee character... And Frenzy gives you attack speed. Frenzy charges give you attack speed on top of what Frenzy gives you as attack speed.
Yeah.
So you're just sitting there with
Mana
this
cost, high
insane
speed.
mana cost like Soul Taker or Blood Magic. Good luck. And then on a bow, it's the same thing. You need like ridiculously high mana to even leech at that rate that you'll be casting your attack.
Well, apparently they also balanced it around something people hadn't discovered yet with the skill that I found was Opioid.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's right.
So it was Old Frenzy was fine the ways we used it, but apparently it wasn't fine in the ways that GGG is like, soon this is going to be discovered and it's way too broken. That's what they said at least.
I sent in a ticket to GGG. It was the dodge. It was 66 dodge.
Okay.
They just nerfed block into the ground, or they were planning on it, and with 66 dodge, it would pretty much just counter the block nerf entirely.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, next question comes from Glory Gauze. How about a passive skill similar to Vengeance that acts like a stagger mechanic? It activates when a hit does X% of your health and turns X% of that hit into a dot. I think people have mentioned this idea before of having something that takes a percentage of the damage you take and applying it over time, so you have time to react to it. I think I like this idea. Can you guys point out any reason why I shouldn't like this idea?
No, it's
I
fine.
feel like I do.
Damage over time in this game, when dealt by players, is pretty bad because it affects your clear speed, and unless it kills it within a second, like the Poison Trapper, or like Viper Strike, for example. You know, why would you use Viper Strike? You gotta use Melee Splash. It does damage over time. You know, you have to wait for your damage. Whereas damage over time dealt to us sucks royally and is overpowered. That zombie, that stupid zombie that Viper Strikes you in Chamber of Sins, he's the biggest joke, right? Until he hits you once, and that Viper Strike is just destroying you.
I think I really like this idea. I feel like it would make the game more strategic and less of those insta-gib thing. But I mean, it can apply really. It can be a fast dot. It can be like a 1 second dot. But 1 second is enough to have you realize the fact that, oh, holy crap, I was just killed. This hit killed me. I'm dead. But I can maybe have a little bit of a chance to do something about this and pop your instant heal flask or something like that to manage it. I mean, and if it's still happening, like it increases the time to death a little bit. But there's still a big threat there. It's just not the insta kill. I don't know. I think I really like this idea. I can't think of any reasons why I don't like it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Not immediately. Yeah, something I'd love to see, and it could be a keystone, could be a secondary aspect of a buff, or it could just be hell, I don't even know if there'd be an issue with that being a built-in mechanic. Maybe not a built-in mechanic, but at least like a keystone or something you can pick out. Yeah. Cool. And I think that's it for questions that I've got. Hold on.
Good.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Alrighty. Shall we do some shout-outs and exits, outros?
Sure, go ahead. Start it up.
Alrighty, so for those of you guys who don't know me,
I do a live stream. I'm not streaming too much Path of Exile right now because I'm waiting for like the new stuff, the new league to happen, and Act 4. But in the lead up to Act 4, I've got some big stuff planned. I want to get Path of Exile Survival Guide 2nd Edition going. So I'm pretty hyped for that. And we also got some other cool stuff coming up as well. And of course, the State of Exile podcast is going to be going ham around that time too. So I'll be streaming and YouTubing plenty of that. So make sure to check that out. Otherwise, I think later today, over the next couple of days, I'm going to be checking out Kin, which is an indie action RPG that's coming out soon. So you guys feel free to stop by and check that out if you want. Pohx?
I am known as that guy that seems like he plays PoE for a week and then quits and then disappears and then comes back. Which
Why are you on this podcast, Pohx?
that's
Yeah,
I
get
know,
off.
right? Because I don't even play the game yet. I still know stuff about the game. It's a crazy mystery. But no, I'm the guy who, you know, I play. I come and go every so often. I've actually played Path of Exile for over 3 years. I actually just looked at when I created my account, which is around when I played. And I'm known for, I guess, being a trapper in game. I play a lot of trappers, and it's pretty much what I do all the time. I stream a variety of games, usually action role-playing games / MMORPG, and I'll be playing in the upcoming race. Actually playing with my roommate Zeno, and it should be pretty fun. Guys could definitely check it out. I YouTube pretty much everything I do as well, but I don't edit anything. So sometimes you'll see like a 10-minute video of me just talking like this. So that's good stuff.
Usually right after you woken up, I noticed.
What's up?
Usually you make videos right when you wake up. I
Oh
noticed.
yeah. That's the. I don't know what it is about me. Like I have these dreams. I'm not even kidding. I'm pretty crazy. I have like a dream of an idea or an inspiration, and I just wake up like randomly like 4 a.m. and I'm like gotta make a video, and I'm like half asleep. I'm like, why? Hello and welcome everybody. It is Pohx again. So
Aww. I love your intro.
And if you guys don't know, my name is Zeno. I stream here on Twitch. I die a lot in hardcore, but I've done pretty good this league compared to my previous leagues. I'm famous because of my cats. What can I say? That's about it, really. I will also be playing the one month. I'm going to be playing an Archer because Arc is god tier and it needs nothing to be good. So I'll admit I love playing Arc. I purposely haven't played Arc very much this league at all, so I wouldn't be burnt down on it. I am fairly burnt out on PoE until this 1 month, though, so I can't promise you too much PoE gameplay, but I'll try my best to give you something. I think we're all at that point now. We're just kind of dabbling in other things.
This point right here is where it's more fun to talk about Path of Exile and think about Path of Exile, which is like, I think is an awesome testament to the game that we can sit here for 2 hours and 1,400 people can enjoy us just talking about the game. And like I did a stream the other day where for 4 hours I just talked about the game with people who didn't even play it at all, but it was still really enjoyable. So thank you guys for being here for this, for holding our hands as we wait for the next act.
All right, see you later, everybody. Again, sorry about the cat porn.
wow.
Jeez.
Sounds great.
Alrighty, catch you guys next time.
Have a good one,
Don't shut it
everybody.
off too soon, Zeno. Don't cut us
I'm
off.
waiting. Happy hands, happy
Five,
hands. They're in the
Waddle,
air.
waddle.
3,
Got any grapes?
2. Well, Annie wanted to wait till the very next day. Bum, bum, bum.
And turning it
Waddle,
off.
waddle.